No, it's because the broadcast, she gets that going, then has to do the broadcast.
Okay, it took a while for that progress bar to make it, but we finally are go for lunch.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the August 21st, 2024 meeting of the Henrietta Town Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Blanca,
Here.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin the meeting with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from July 31st, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Robbie, you're up again. Okey-doke.
I have resolution 17-244, 2024. Whereas childhood cancer continues to be a horrible toll on our community and the country at large, and continues to be a leading cause of death for children, with a nearly average of 17,000 children under the age of 15 being diagnosed with cancer across the country, including 44 children in the greater Rochester area in 2023. And whereas major advances in the treatment has seen that 85% of children with cancer now survive 5 years or more, which is a significant increase since the 1970s, when the 5-year survival rate was about 58%. But even with those advances, it still means that tragically one child of 6 will not survive their cancer, including 9 area children who suffered a relapse and 13 sweet souls in our community who lost their battle this past year. And one child dying is one too many. And whereas the town wishes to support the efforts of CURE, Childhood Cancer Association, and others to bring awareness to the dreaded affliction, to let parents and children facing this disease know they are not alone, and to encourage research and funding to help fight this disease. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board declares September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Henrietta, in the hopes of helping parents and children facing this disease find some comfort from and with others who are facing the same challenges, and to call for increased funding and research towards ending or at least reducing the death toll from this dreaded affliction. Be it further resolved that the Henrietta Town Board will be adding golden ribbons and awareness messages to the digital signage at the town facilities, and encourages anyone able to do so to change their exterior lighting to gold. Tie gold bows around your campus and include awareness messages on campus signage during the month, or at least during the week of September 22nd through September 28th, as part of the Go Gold to show support for the children battling cancer.
Second.
It's sad and unfortunate that, again, this is the leading killer of children in our country. Progress has been being made, but unfortunately not progress fast enough. Fortunately, we do have some good facilities here in town. or I should say in the greater Rochester area. But, you know, again, if for anyone going through this, my heart goes out to you. I just can't imagine what it would be like having to go through this. So any other comments? I didn't know, someone from Cure they were going to try to be here, but they were pretty sure they weren't going to be able to make it in time. So it doesn't look like that's the case. All right. Hearing and seeing no further comment, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have a report on our special attention detail by Captain Fay and Deputy Green.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us. I'm Chris Fay, the captain of Substation B here from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. This is Deputy Donnie Green, who has been the special attention deputy over the past contracted time, which has been officially since February of this year, up until this month, and ends, I believe, October. So we were just here to discuss that. I feel the opportunity was an outstanding opportunity for us to serve the town in this way, and I appreciate the way that this position was funded. Early on, we discussed what the parameters would be and what his duties would actually be to help the community, and what the measuring stick would be when we're done, as we're here today. The measuring stick, because these things are hard to actually quantify, basically is how people feel, how he's doing to make them feel more comfortable. Is he visible? The perception from the town, how are the complaints been? Have they been lowered? Have things been made more safe? I feel they have. I feel the position has been very effective. We put together a kind of a quick pointed sheet that I believe you all have, just kind of bulleted points on what he's been doing over these past 6 months. It's actually a paid for 6 months, but he was actually in the job since November, just not funded by the town until February. You all have the sheets. If you'd like, we can talk briefly about it, or you can ask any questions.
Yeah, I mean, just so people understand, the original plan was to start it last November, but it took some time for the intermunicipal agreement to clear attorneys. Then it had to go up to the county legislature, get on the schedule for approval. And so it didn't take over to February. One of the things I'm going to take a look at is the possibility of ending in October doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It would make more sense to, potentially end in February. Take a look at that. Because that way, basically, one of the reasons we're doing this review now is, of course, we're starting the budget process for next year to look at whether we're going to re-up this. I know one of the places that we definitely saw a big need had to do with our crossing guards, and specifically, especially on some of the major roads. There were folks who would routinely drive through, essentially force the traffic or the crossing guard out of the way, even as kids were in the crosswalk. They didn't do that as much when there was a sheriff's car parked nearby, so that was helpful. And I see, there was also issues with folks speeding through residential areas and stuff like that, and I see that. I know one of the thoughts was initially, let's get these people to slow down. If there's people doing excessive speed, or we'll call them repeat offenders, they ignored their warning, then I know you issued a number of UTT is uniform traffic ticket.
Yes.
Yeah. I will say that, I've gotten good feedback. And even more so, I've gotten less negative feedback. That doesn't mean we've solved all the problems, obviously. You'd have to have a car at each of these locations pretty much around the clock. And even then, there'd still be people unfortunately coming through, but overall, I think we've made good progress, and I think there's still other areas we can hit, and we've started to talk on some, so I'll let other talk, see what other comments. Any other questions?
I have a question for Deputy Green. I live in an area where they do speed a lot, and I've been passed over a double line going downhill on Calkins. But as you have been doing this since November, what have you found that was some dangerous things and things that you helped our community with? I'd like to hear from you.
Well, just today, actually, I was sitting in your area right on 1500 Calkins Road. We have a speed trailer there now, actually, that is very helpful. Some other areas of concern where I've issued traffic tickets and warnings would be Balmer Parkway, the stop sign next to the school there.
Mm-hmm.
I've sat there numerous times. School's out right now, but I will be back there in a few weeks. I don't know if you had a chance to look at.
I haven't seen it
Okay,
yet. Sorry.
some other areas, Brooks Road, Good Roulette, Wildbriar, Hawkins Road, East End Red Road, that intersection there.
Mm-hmm.
Kenwick Drive, Blackwell,
Okay.
Open Hills Crossing, Cape Henry Trail, just to name a few.
I'll tell you what, when you guys parked a empty police car there, sheriff's car there, people slowed down.
Yes,
And
sir.
it was funny to me, but we see a car and we slow down immediately, whether we're doing anything bad or not. And having it be empty, that was a really smart thing to do.
What I've always wanted is a wooden billboard in the shape of a car that is sitting there,
Yeah.
and then occasionally there is a car parked behind it.
Oh, boy.
And so for the people who say, "Oh, it's just a wooden sign and just fly by," then you can pull out and go get them.
So it's funny, the empty car, we actually get calls on.
Do you?
So, people would check the welfare on the police officer
Right.
that hasn't been back to the car.
Yeah.
But it is effective. Sometimes people just need a reminder.
Right.
That they're going too fast. Everybody's busy, right? So sometimes it's just that deterrent.
Exactly.
It quickly takes your foot off the gas.
That's
pedal.
right.
Well, I know one of the other areas that you've been helping with as well is with the homelessness, and not just shooing people away, so to speak, but the big thing is that you've been hooking them up with various programs designed to help the homeless. So that's very much appreciated.
Sure, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the opportunity. I think in a letter that we presented earlier, very hard in this town because this town has so much dynamics going on between the retail area, the residential area, and when you try to do a special attention, you set up on Hawkins Road, you get the radar set, you start your detail, then the robbery comes in,
Right.
and everybody has to pull away. So it's just not that effective to do it the way we were doing it. This is kind of thinking outside the box, and we appreciate the opportunity to let Donnie kind of shine in the way he does.
And then the other thing they've been doing too, is I think we've talked about before, when there aren't any of those other calls going on, then essentially those other cars are able to help out with some of the other hot spots, or, if there's a particular duty that is benefited by having more than one deputy there, the other non-special attention deputies do help with the special attention details.
As a former educator, I really enjoy the fact that you have time to get into the schools and meet the kids in the lunches and things. And Officer Green is such a role model, first class. It just fosters good feelings in the community. The kids end up trusting, and I thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good, I think it's a good step in the right direction. Our town is both so big and so busy that you can't be everywhere at once, but word gets around, that's what they say, advertising is the best deterrent. So I appreciate all you've done, and I hope we can continue to do this.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I also appreciate that. To have the kids just be able to interact with the B zone officers and Donnie, is key, and we don't always have the time to do that when we're responding to calls, but to see him at the rec center, making his rounds, playing games. At Myrtlewood, you know, we had the thing at Myrtlewood,
Mhm.
where Mission Barbecue came in and helped us set up an event. Donnie and, Kelly Valvasori were in charge of that, and it went awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And I hear you can shoot some hoops.
A little bit.
One thing I did notice in your letter, first thing, I think it's great you're getting in the neighborhoods and helping out. The one concern I had was, how much time would be spent in some of the big box stores. I thought the sheriff's department themselves already had a special unit looking into those stores for theft and everything else, and just like to see, more time in the neighborhoods, the better we can.
Absolutely, you know,
Right.
and I do spend some time there.
Right.
You know, whether I'm in a park, at a school, a crosswalk,
You
you
can.
know, maybe a traffic point on Calkins, but I do try to, like just today I was at Target. I'll walk through, I'll maybe go to Starbucks and get a coffee, say hello to the loss prevention there, spend 5-10 minutes inside, and then I'll go and I'll just sit right at the entrance. 45 minutes, you know? Again, I can't be everywhere, but it does
Right.
help.
And one of the
Right.
things we did ask him, we had a number of complaints from residents that there was problems with at some of the big box stores with parking in the handicap and fire zones. So
that's where I
what he's
was-
been- That's what he's been paying attention.
That was
to.
my
Yeah.
next, where I was going.
Okay, yeah, that is one of the more recent requests that's come out, so.
And thanks for everything you guys, both of you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And there are a lot of handicap parking spots out there, so there are.
Yes.
It's hard to hit all of them with the limited staff.
Yeah,
Uh,
Right.
It's been a good opportunity. I don't know if you're aware, he also has been doing some non-funded time with some of the details that go throughout the town. You know, we actually got, fairly well known for our retail theft. That's what made me think about what you just brought up. We've been running retail theft details, saturating the areas with probably 15 to 20 deputies and undercover, and actually catching people. We arrested the same person 3 times in these details. But they'll be running consistently throughout the months. We have another one coming up, and we're actually pretty well known for how well they've been going to deter some of the crime here.
Great.
That and some of the massage parlor. I think I sent you an email. on
Yeah.
that.
yeah, I saw that.
He was also part of that.
So there was recently an investigation done. The sheriff's department had received, I don't know if you want to call it a complaint, but that there were some folks brought to this country illegally and being held against their will in sex trafficking. And so they did a bunch of investigation, put together enough evidence to go and get warrants, served warrants, and hit not just the main parlor where the first complaint came from, but as well as other parlors and the person's home and other business. So it was quite effective and liberated a number of individuals who were essentially sex slaves. So.
Great job.
I also appreciate the town's partnership in that. The town actually came out with the assistant supervisor, and the fire marshal. And that actually helped tremendously.
And so those businesses have been shut down, where they were operating illegally, including one location without a certificate of occupancy, so.
I did get the letter on the note on that today. Were those, and I don't recall, were those homes both located in the town also?
One of them was in this town. And
Okay,
One was in Brighton.
okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Do we have any questions from the public? Okay. If you guys want to step aside, if you want to be able to answer questions, you might want to sit at the table. Which has a microphone.
Yeah, Nicholas, 62 Wickline Lane. Now, you may or may not remember, but I had brought this up a while ago. This was before Mr. Barley, Mr. Stafford were elected, regarding the illegal use of dirt bikes. Okay, that have been whizzing down, speeding at 50 miles an hour down Wickline Lane and down on Pittsburgh Henry Town Line Road, going to the the dirt dead end at the end of Pittsfield to Town Line Road where the highway is, and there are towers with power lines that are back there. They come from not just around the corner on Blackwell Lane, but they come from some of the other cross streets off of Calkins into our neighborhood to do this because the trails are back because there's that area back there. Now, as you remember, I had asked about whether or not something could be done to close that access to that area off only for, let's say, the people that are authorized to be back there, which would be the power company because you have power towers there. I think there's a substation there as well. I think right on the end. But the point is that if you have been paying attention just on the news just the other day, so a kid was riding a dirt bike that was 12 years old in the city, was hit by a car, seriously injured, okay, brought to the hospital. These bikes are illegal. The county passed a law making them illegal. They are not insured. They pose a threat to motorists. They're unsafe, not just for the person that's riding it, but for the motorist who is driving, minding their own business. They're riding them in the middle of the road. Okay, even if it's a quiet road, it doesn't matter. All it takes is for one person not to see it. And the sad thing about this is, a lot of times, it's not adults that are doing this. Okay, these are 12-year-old kids. And even though they have a helmet on, they're not wearing any padded gear or anything. If they get hit, somebody is going to get killed or hurt or seriously injured. It's already happened in the city. And I'm going to tell you something, it's going to happen here. Now, when we see it, okay, we have not only called up, but we have requested special attention, which is the proper thing to do. We just had a deputy that came down, I believe it was the other day. I think it was, I forget whether it was earlier in the week or last week on Friday or Thursday. And there were two kids that probably couldn't have been more than 12 years old. And the deputy showed up, but by the time the officers get there or the deputy gets there, as you know, it's difficult to be everywhere. You can't be everywhere. You get emergency calls to take priority. By the time they get there, unfortunately, the parties that are riding these things are either gone or they've disappeared into the dust in the trail back there, which they shouldn't be back there to begin with. Now, the question again is, why can't that particular area there be closed off? What is the problem? Why can't something be
It's
done?
not our property. We don't have the right to shut off access to the property. If RG&E wants to shut off and put a fence across their property, they're allowed to.
Are they the ones that actually have the jurisdiction there? I mean, well, I'm
Correct.
asking.
Well, it's not, I don't
Mr.
actually
Page, you're
think it's,
going like this. I don't know what this.
I don't know that it's RG&E. It might be Niagara Mohawk. It's whoever owns the high voltage transmission lines, but it's their property, their private property.
So as far as that's concerned, you can't do anything about that.
We're not legally, now, we have had the dirt bikes on the special attention detail. They have issued tickets in the
I know
past.
they have, because they've told me that they've caught a few. I know that the deputy that came to our house told me that he chased somebody down. And if he hadn't stopped, the kid would have probably spilled over.
Right.
And I know that.
Yeah, so that's one of the problems is pursuit is discouraged. So typically they try to find, sometimes they'll catch them in an area where there's, for lack of a better way to put it, no way out.
Right.
Sometimes they'll try to discreetly follow them to their home.
And then
once they
catch,
get
yeah,
off
I
the
know. And
bike,
I've heard that they've done that with what we've called a couple of times.
Yep.
I will say this, it has gone down. The number of incidents has gone down considerably from, let's say, 2 years ago. It has gone down, but it still is something that needs to be watched. There should be special attention. I don't know if you cover that or not. I don't know if that's
You
part of the
can,
detail.
his detail gets dictated by the town board, so you're welcome to write a letter to the town board asking for that, so.
Well, does he cover that detail or no? I'm just asking.
It's whether it's on our special attention detail list or not.
Well, is
Now-
it? Do you know if it is or
Sir, where do you live?
Hmm?
What road do you live on?
62 it's Whipwine Lane. It runs between Blackwell and Pittsford Henrietta Town Line.
So Blackwell is one of the areas that I'm
Yeah.
frequently at.
The problem with it is they come down Blackwell, they turn, I
Right.
guess it'd be what, is it a left? I
Okay,
think
we
a
got
left
other
on-
people who are asking questions, so unless you got another topic, I'd like to move on.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
So what you speak of is also a problem in a lot of different communities.
Right.
RPD they've got details where they're arresting and taking these bikes and everything else because it is dangerous for motorists as well. And there's been a couple of people killed because of this dangerous motorbikes that they have all over the city of Rochester.
Go ahead and come on up.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name's Dave Christensen at 1456 Hawkins Road. No, okay. First of all, I want to thank these gentlemen for what they're doing. Okay, greatly appreciated. I know you're stretched very thin. I appreciate the town for manning up and going through and actually bringing financial assistance to bringing you on board. Okay. I was going to do a different presentation tonight concerning that exactly. Okay. I have a saying, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect. So what I'd like to do here now, to be followed up later on, I have reports from 2023 as to the speeds going by my house. Okay. One of the things that transpires is the fact that we literally have hundreds per day doing over 50 miles an hour by the house. When Wegmans opened up, it just opened up the floodgates because these people, Mendon, Rush, one of your officers years ago made the comment, he says, okay, I have got more soccer moms coming out of Pittsburgh that I'm writing tickets to than anybody else. Okay. I would like to keep that up. I'm asking you for further coverage. I can give you the reports that I printed out for these gentlemen, and what it showed is what the speed trailer was. I want to thank, I gotta go to my notes here, your communications officer, okay? Sorry for putting the speed trailer up there now. This will be the report that I give out here in a couple of weeks. I also received, as of today, the number of tickets that were written from January 1 till August 15th. I will compliment you. There are more tickets now written on Hawkins Road in what I call my section from Pinnacle to Town Line than there were before. There are 4 tickets written. I have 200 people doing over 50 miles an hour every day. I would.
Pardon me, Dave, would I be able to get you closer to the microphone? We're having a harder time hearing virtually.
Okay, I'll turn and do that.
Thank you, Dave.
I will pass those files on to you electronically if you'd like to see them. I'm going to give them to the town here. I'm going to have the town press. I have one question. When you had the open house here year and a half, 2 years ago, one of the things that was told to me is the fact that there were 4 slots for traffic officers in Henrietta. Okay, in that one office at the end of the hall on the right. There were only 2 filling that location because they didn't have the manpower. It was not funded from the county. With Officer Green coming on board, do you still have those 2 officers dedicated to traffic in Henrietta, or has that gone past?
Use that mic right there.
First of all, thanks for coming. Goes back a long way for several different captains, right? So everybody understands the problem and definitely all agree that there is a problem. The data shows it. We've had our traffic sergeant out there in recent history, within the month or so, running radar himself there, verifying that before the speed trailer was put there. The speed trailer's there now, so we're waiting for the data on that to see if what we've been doing has been slowing people down or not. To get to your question about traffic, like every police department across the United States, we ran into a manpower crunch, right? So we're down in numbers, and those numbers are, it's hard to fill everything, right? So traffic was one of those things that we had to redesign. With the help of the sheriff, the county legislators, our numbers have been rising, and there's a whole new concept for traffic to fill the whole traffic unit. So right now, the traffic unit is not run out of B zone. The sergeant is there. The traffic unit has been sent to each zone as not a unit, but as a deputy that patrols traffic. In the near future, we are going to bring back the concept of having them as a unit. I would hope they come back to B zone, I like having them out there. It gives us a little bit of an advantage, having them at the home field.
Mhm.
Unsure on what that is gonna look like. But the unit will be whole again after this next academy comes out.
To fulfill your goals, okay? There were two that were supposedly in Henrietta previously when you had the open house, when he came on board. Are there two still there now, or has the county cut you back so far that you can't provide that coverage?
No, there are not two deputies dedicated to Henrietta right now.
Okay.
It
But
does,
that's not a replacement because of Deputy Green.
No,
That's because
it's
they-
financial from the county.
Yeah,
Right.
and right, so basically, the cadet classes aren't fulfilling all the slots. And the other thing is Captain Fay explained, instead of having the one unit there, they sent one of the deputies into each of the zones. So instead of them being here in Henrietta, they're spread out.
I get it. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. I'm gonna be the squeaky wheel, okay? When I've got 200 and plus coming by me at 50 to 80 miles an hour in a 35 zone, okay? When you have people right up here in front that have been passed on the double yellow line. I sent, sorry, a video of being passed, not only me, because I've got cameras in my car, but also for my house. If you'd like, I have the past reports. I have had what you've done now, okay, the tickets written along Calkins only, and I'd love to pass those on for review. And the last thing I'll do is I've been the one that was bugging you for the empty car along Calkins.
Right.
Put it back up there because as you've heard, it works. Cell phones hit the floor and break on.
So we can get that car back over there, if we could find it, you know.
The other thing I'll say is, if you haven't already, reach out to Michael Udelson, Rick Milne, and Steve Brew. They're your three.
Next step.
Yep, they're your three county ledge, because again, in terms of funding those traffic officers and bringing in the next cadet class, the funding comes from the county legislature.
Newly retired duck, I'm coming.
That's right.
Okay, so I'll do that. May I bring these reports up, give them to you guys and then go
Certainly.
from there? And I thank you so much for the service.
No,
If you
absolutely.
could send an electronic version, that would be appreciated. supervisor@henrietta.org.
Would you prefer that?
I'd prefer it if some of them might want the printed,
I'll
but
take the printed.
One other thing, when the data from the speed trail, the current data comes
Thank
in, we will call Mr. Christensen and set up another meeting so we can review that data versus the new data on the machine.
sounds good. You bet. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thank you for doing the presentation. And again, thank you for all your work on behalf of the town. We're one of those towns that does not have a police force, so we rely heavily on our sheriffs and their deputies, and very appreciative also that, you know, since I took office, we worked with, and coincidentally, the same time I took office, Sheriff Baxter took office. One of the first things we did was work to move the B zone here to the center of town and the town campus, instead of it being buried back on in the middle of an industrial park in the middle of nowhere. So I see it as a very positive thing. I've seen more people willing to go and meet and talk to you guys when you've had the open houses. I gotta believe it's much better attended than it was. Although the only advantage the other location had was it was right next door to Utz. So if you had the, chips and cheese balls, but
Well, I appreciate the efforts to make that happen in the new court building. I know there were some naysayers about putting that there in the very beginning for various reasons, but it ended up to be very positive.
yeah, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Captain
Thank you.
Fay and Deputy Green, thanks for all that you do for our town.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain and Deputy. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have special use permit application number 2024-026, Genesee Valley, Henrietta Moose Lodge, number 2290, 5375 West Henrietta Road to hold an annual fundraising event, the Sportsman Raffle, on September 7th, 2024, with music, raffles, sale of food, beer, and wine. Introduce yourself and your relationship to the project and tell us a little bit about it.
My name is Dory Ray, and I'm the president of Genesee Valley Henrietta Lodge 2290. My chairman was supposed to be here for this, but she got called into work. So here I am. And like you said, it is for our annual fundraising event. 100% of the proceeds are donated out to the community to, it's not the School of the Holy Childhood anymore. It's Holy Childhood.
Mhm.
And it's been very beneficial for them in the past. We're in our 20+ years. I can't remember what number, but we're in the 20 years that we've been running this.
And I assume, whereas it might be, I'll say refreshed, there's no real major change from layout and everything else that's been done previously.
It's,
Yeah.
it's the same
Yeah.
way we've done it since day one.
All right. I don't really have any questions because this is what, the 7th time I've seen
24th.
this application?
24th time.
Well, I'm saying that I've seen it.
Yeah,
So,
24?
that's what it said on the application.
Okay, it's 24
And
then.
as you know, Mr. Laus never makes a mistake.
No, never.
just ask them.
No questions from me. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
None for
Thank
me.
you.
I'm good.
And it goes to a great cause.
Yeah.
It really
It
does.
does.
It does.
It really does. We really believe in it.
Is there anybody from the public who has any questions? And hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2024-026, Genesee Valley Henrietta Moose Lodge, number 2290. Somebody wish to make a motion?
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve special use permit number 2024-026.
Second.
We need to say what.
Oh, I'm sorry. Genesee Valley Henrietta Moose Lodge, number 2290, 5375 West Henrietta Road, to hold an annual fundraising event, Sportsman Raffle, on September 7th, 2024, with music, raffles, and sale of food, beer, and wine.
Go ahead and read
Second, please.
Yep. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Hopefully I'll see you there. I know
Thank
you'll be
you.
there.
I
whether
will
I,
be
whether
there.
I see you or not.
Yeah.
Because
I know, I see you there.
it's usually a pretty big crowd.
It is.
And
Thank
depending on
you.
which table you're manning, then it's too long a line for me to come up and say.
I'm on food duty this
Food
year.
Duty this year? All right. You have a better chance of seeing me then.
All right then. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right.
And
take
thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Next up, we have special use permit application number 2024-027, Shady Grove Dispensary, 3047 West Henrietta Road, to operate a retail cannabis dispensary. Do we have a representative present or online? Oh, there they are.
Hello,
Could you please introduce yourselves and your relationship to this project?
I'm Paul McConnell. I've got the license for the Shady Grove Dispensary, 51% owner, and this is Dave Robinson, my business partner.
Could you give us a little description of what you're looking to do?
We're gonna open up a cannabis dispensary in the old Millennial Games building. We've got a card license that was issued to us last June. With all the stuff going on in the state, it's taken a while to get through. And then there was a little misunderstanding on needing a special use permit, or we would have done this back probably November last year. But we didn't know about it. It's just going to be basic follow the New York State rules. You got no other choice. We've got okay from the landlord to do it. We've got security cameras set up, ready to be put in so that we can maintain a secure place for everybody. We hope to do probably 8 to 10 employees and see if we can make a go of it.
I'm just looking at your drawing at the moment. And then, so do you want to talk a little bit about, what you're gonna do with regards to security?
We'll have a security guard up front that will check IDs and keep an eye on the parking lot. And our camera setup will also give us visual on the parking lot to make sure no one's smoking out there.
So one of the things I note on your drawing, when you first come in the door, is there going to be any kind of wall to the right so that people can't just kind of slip in along the wall and not go past your security desk?
We can install one. I hadn't planned on putting one there.
I mean, it could even be a
the desk is right at the door, but
yeah, I'm just looking at the drawing, you know, just, it could even be a table. It could be just something to keep them from trying to scooch to the right. Just some thoughts.
No, that could be easily added and makes sense too.
Yeah.
But
Really the only thing I see from the drawing.
like there's total coverage camera wise recorded for and kept for 6 months of the entire store footage and the exterior of the store for security, and a vault gets put in that with metal in the walls and whatnot where the product is put, so that there's nobody who's just going to smash a window and get in and get out. It'll take a while to cut into the wall and cut through into the safe. These are all things that the state requires to even open a dispensary. So, the state will come in and inspect the location as well to say you are good to go on top of the county and the town.
But I can put a half wall up there so people can still see in, but can't get by the guard.
Yeah.
Our fire marshal wanted to know if there's a fire alarm system or a sprinkler system to be installed.
There's a fire alarm system there from the previous store.
But is it hooked directly to the department?
I haven't gotten in to see what was there yet, specifically on that, but we can be in touch with them to make it work. The security system we have set up when someone comes in should be able to get to fire and police. We're with Siebold Security. They've done a lot there.
I would tend to think that, without the other stores and the store that was existing there before the Millennial Game, that the landlord itself has a fire system installed in the entire building.
Well,
that's something that we can check with too.
I just wanted you to know that he put it in our report, so he
Okay.
must be concerned about it. So I think it would be proactive, at least maybe to give him a call and to see what extent he expects that before you get your C of O.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it might end up being an issue for your landlord, but obviously if it blocks the C of O, then it affects you, so.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure there's a system in there that can just be hooked back to them, or, it's gonna be pretty much set up with the new owners, I would presume, but we will be in touch with them.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna read some of the current conditions, and that way you guys all know, and if we want to add any to them.
I had a
You
couple
can.
questions.
What's
A
that?
couple questions.
couple.
I know, we're,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just,
Good idea.
Yep. So basically, these are the conditions that are currently on here, and again, there may be additional ones added, we'll see, but prior to operating the dispensary, the applicant obtain all necessary governmental approvals to operate said retail cannabis dispensary, including but not limited to a cannabis adult use retail dispensary license from the New York State Office of Cannabis Management. I understand you pretty much have that set. Dispensary shall be operated in accordance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. 3, that on-site consumption of cannabis products, either in-store or on-site, such as in the parking lot or adjacent areas, is prohibited, and that diligence is expected from the operation to prevent this from occurring. The failure to prohibit and/or a lax attitude towards those improperly consuming cannabis products in-store or on-site may result in the revocation of the special use permit by the town board. 4, that the operation exercises diligence with respect to child-proof containers, packaging that does not entice children, buyer identification procedures, monitoring the facility inside and out, and the use of a safe and other cash handling protocols, and other procedures and protocols to ensure the legal sale of cannabis products and to help prevent the cannabis products from falling into the hands of minors. The failure to maintain adequate safeguards or a material departure from what was presented to the town board during the application process may result in the revocation of the special use permit by the town board. Number 5, that all cannabis sale activities shall take place within the interior of the building or at a designated curbside location along the front of the building in conjunction with applicable New York State Office of Cannabis Management laws and regulations regarding curbside sale operations. No sales may occur in other outside locations, under tents or under a portico or similar physical structure. And then number 6, you cannot have retail operations between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. Okay.
You got a couple for me already, so
That's why I wanted to read them, because then if you have any others you wanted to add.
he already had answered a couple too, but have you ever been in the business before?
Not this business, no.
Okay. Are you from this area, Rochester area, or are you out of town?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, live in Rochester.
Okay.
Both of us.
Okay, doke. And your security, are they going to be employees of the store, or are they going to be a security company?
Most likely employee of the store, but I would like to find officers and stuff that are off duty or retired or security guards that have been trained.
Okay.
But they'll be working for me.
Okay, thanks. And then the last one I have is did you apply for your did you notify the town 30 days prior to applying for your cannabis license?
Yeah, I've got the municipal notice.
Okay.
I
So-
actually applied for the license prior to finding a place, so I didn't know I was going to do it in Henrietta. But when I found out I was doing it in Henrietta, I did the municipal notice. I've got a copy of it. If you'd like to see it, I can send it to you, email it, whatever. But I got the license before I knew where I was going to go, because I didn't know I was going to get the license. So I couldn't possibly pick a place before I got the license.
So they have 2 approaches as to how OCM can do it. You can either do a full application with a.
Well, this was a card application, so this
Well,
was
I understand.
prior to that.
I'm explaining to the board member that you can either do it where you have a pre-approved location and essentially go for the full, or you can get what a lot of people were calling a conditional, or, that the card application. The idea is that I get approval to then operate, but now I have to find a location before you can get final approval from the Office of Cannabis Management.
Okay. No,
That was the tough part.
And I'm not doubting you, Steve, but it would be nice if OCM updated their rules and their here, because that's not actually what it says. So as long as that's the case, then.
Yeah, they do allow it both ways. Some of the stuff they stopped. I don't know that so when they first came out, you could do it either way. At some point, they stopped offering the approval. I believe, I'm not positive that they've stopped offering that you can just get pre-approved for a license and then have to go
Wow.
find a location.
The-
I
the
think
one-
Not anymore. No,
Yeah, so
that was
that's
only for
probably-
the card license.
that's probably why it says it that way.
The original people, if they were doing it with the state, they would have a location, the state would actually approve the location, give them their license. And they ran the store in the state where the state told them to. This is the store you in your
Right.
storefront. And actually provided the money to set them up.
That
and
was one
whatnot.
of the options within the card
Yeah.
program.
And that was the one that was for people adversely affected. They've had a number of different approaches, although like I said, a lot of those programs have since ended. The 30 days, we do get notification, but I'll make a note that their application for this has to be in 45 days prior. So clearly we got our 30 days notice.
Okay, no,
I
that's
was, I was also going to interject that the notification to municipalities form, we received in October of 2023 for them.
I have a question for Paul and Dave. You guys, so you're gonna have 8 to 10 employees, correct?
Eventually, yeah, it's gonna not start out that much. We got to start making money before we can hire people.
So you don't live in Henrietta. What made you choose Henrietta for your business? We have a lot of these shops around here.
Well, when we chose the place back in October, there weren't a lot of shops around. There was only 2. And one was medical, and we didn't know they were switching over. Plus, it's all the other towns around shove you into industrial or light industrial areas, which aren't really out where the public can easily get to you. So we chose Henrietta because there's a lot of traffic, a lot of commercial, and we hoped we could do a good business there.
All right, thank you for that answer. I have no other questions.
Any other board members? Any questions from the public? Come on up.
Nicholas Search again, 62 Wick Line. This goes to Mr. Barley. I have a question for you. The question you just asked, why would that matter? Why would you care about what made them choose it? I don't understand just so I know what's behind it. What is the reasoning?
There's nothing behind it. I just wonder if you live in another area on Ridge Road, why would you want to come all the way to Henrietta for a business if you can get one close to your house? I have a business. I'm self-employed. I work 10 minutes from my house.
No, I know. You told me that you understood.
So basically, why would I want to work in Greece if I can get a business right here in
Well,
Henrietta? That's what my
I
question.
didn't want to deal with the city and the issues that can come with having a dispensary in the city. The area I live, there's enough problems around where I didn't want that. I wanted to get to an area where I wouldn't have to deal with issues.
And I live in Greece, and Greece opted out, so there's no way to set up a store in Greece.
So when you say problems, what kind of problems possibly could a cannabis office bring to a community?
Well, down here in the city, there was one around the corner on Dewey, and they kept trying to break the windows and get in there and take product. They couldn't because the way it's set up, you can't get to it. There isn't anything in display cases. It's all in safes and vaults. By the time you get through the windows and the alarms and then try to break into that, somebody's cuffing you.
Gotcha.
I mean-
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, but I want to say one thing in response to what he just said with what you said. I frankly can understand why nobody would want to basically run something like this in the city with all the crime and all the problems they have there. I can certainly understand, and with all the red tape, I wouldn't want to do it either. Not that I would open up a cannabis shop. I wouldn't want to do that. But I mean, if you are going to do that, I certainly wouldn't want to do it in the city. Okay, if I asked 50 people that question, I'm pretty sure they would agree. I said pretty sure, I'm not saying definitely. But I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right. So town board members are allowed to be curious.
More than happy to answer.
Okay. Anybody else from the public who have any questions, comments? Then hearing and seeing.
I'm sorry. I do have a Q and
Online?
A. Yes, I'm sorry. This just came in. A question from Walter Liss. Is there a limit to the number of cannabis shops that Henrietta will allow?
We are not legally allowed to put a numerical limit on it. There is a practical limit because anytime a shop opens up, gets approved, it sets a boundary around it in which there can be no other such shops. And so.
And only the state has a limit on how many shops can be per capita of people. So it really depends on the population of Henrietta and how far
47.
apart they can set up in the legal area.
Yeah, so
You
we're
got
about
twofold.
we're about 47,000 people. I don't remember off the top of my head what the per capita, but only the state can put the hard limit on that. Municipalities are not allowed to. So to be honest, I think we've kind of exceeded the practical limit. But as we've learned, when car washes come into town and ask for a special use permit, we cannot limit and deny a special use permit because we already have too many. That's not our job. This is a land use decision. This is a question as to whether this area is a legitimate use for the business in question. It's not a question about, do we think the business is going to survive? Do we like the business? Do we not like the business? Do we have a moral objection to the nature of the business itself? None of those are legal grounds upon which to deny an application. So again, do I feel that we're a bit oversaturated? I do. I think what you'll see is some of those will settle out. Some will survive, some will not. Maybe I'm underestimating the pot consumption capacity of the county. Maybe they will all survive. I don't know. But you know, again, as far as when you look at the locations, I don't know where they can squeeze in too many more. So we're getting close to being, I'll say, full. But again, if somebody can find a essentially 1,000-foot radius, so a 2,000-foot diameter circle that doesn't intersect any of the other circles, they could arguably try to find that location. It's not across the entire town. It's just across a stretch of our retail on West Henrietta Road, a portion of West Henrietta Road, and a portion of Jefferson. Yep, go ahead.
I guess just a quick request. Larry Neal, 14 Mertensia in Henrietta. And you, Mr. Chairman, you said that you thought that maybe you reached the limit, that based on the number of people in Henrietta. Is that something that you can take a step forward and look into that to see if in fact there is something that says with 47,000 people, you're permitted 10, or so that you can take it a step further to find out for yourself and the town whether the quantity has exceeded or is approaching the number.
I'm saying we've approached the practical limit. I'm not saying we've reached the regulatory limit that the state imposes. And it's the state who will not grant a license to somebody in Henrietta if they've exceeded that number. So that is the state's purview. They've made that crystal clear. It is not the town's purview. It's not the city's purview, the county's purview. It is the state's purview to determine the maximum density and maximum number within a particular community.
But wouldn't it be fair to say that the state has something based on 47,000 people, Henrietta, that would tell you?
You can look it up yourself. It's
Well,
go to OCM.
But you're the town board, so I'm asking you if the town board can do something.
I-
Thank you very much.
Right. I can tell you, Larry, that I did, I've been looking at this quite a bit and I did not find anything in there that said that it didn't say a limit. The
Right.
only limit was 1,000-foot radius between stores. That's
Right.
And I've spent several hours since the last meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have a question, Super.
Yep, go ahead.
Could we reduce the area now of where they could go? Obviously, the ones that have already been approved state,
It requires a local law. You'd have to draft a
Yep.
local law,
Okay.
put it forth.
Okay.
Call a public hearing, whole 9 yards.
I do have one additional question online from Walter Liss. He's asking, does OCM provide training to licensees?
Yes. Did you hear that?
Was that Dave or Paul who answered yes?
The state does have guidelines and some training that is available. Most of it is private, but there's gonna be much training to do with the bio tracks, the way that the state actually tracks inventory and sales. So they have to train in that. As far as everyday store running it, they don't get that deep in. That's gonna be more private setup.
Thank you.
It's just rules and regulations mostly from them.
So in looking at the population plays into the size of the radius. If the village, town, city, or village has a population over 20,000, then it is 1,000, can't be within 1,000 feet of another dispensary. If they have less than 20,000 people, it can't be within 2,000 feet of another dispensary. I don't see anything that talks about a limit on the total number within a municipality. But again, when you look at the area that we're in, that is allowed, it's starting to fill up. Other than they could go into what's we commonly refer to as our adult use areas, which are, going back to his point, they're industrial zones hidden away in the recesses and corners of the town. Coming up.
Just to answer your question, okay, I did find it. Okay, there is no population-based cap to the number of retailers or micro cultivators in a town. Section 9, Public Act 22-103 was removed.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions?
Nicholas Hirsch again, 62 Wick Lane. I mean, if we talked about this, I think the last time, but based on this 1,000 whatever it is radius. Okay.
1,000 feet.
So I'm sorry, 1,000 feet. I'm sorry, miles. 1,000 feet radius. It would make sense to me, okay, you know, especially since this is a little bit of math involved, that you could only fit so many, right? You don't have an infinite amount of
Correct.
space.
Right.
So, I mean, once you've looked at that diameter in that circle, right, you're limited to just that area. So the bottom line is that once it gets to the point where you can't put another one there, and it's because it's not within that 1,000-mile distance, then you're done. You can't do any more. You can't put any more in. And that's why the state has done it that way. I'm not them, but I would suspect.
No, we understand that.
That's the reason
I'm
why
not
they
clear
did.
what you're.
Well, I'm just trying to like answer maybe some of the questions people are having about this whole thing about why isn't there an actual number limit per store as opposed to doing it with a radius?
Because
But I know why.
if they had a number of like 4,
Right. No,
we wouldn't have 9 now.
no.
So, or not, or I shouldn't say 9. I said
Well,
five,
I know
five
you're
that-
just using a hypothetical.
5 and
number,
4
right.
that are pending, but anyways, yeah, they wouldn't, if they had a number.
But the idea is that once you reach that limit within that
Yeah.
distance,
Right.
you're full and you can't approve anymore because it would be illegal to do so. And I think that's what people are kind of missing is the fact that you can only fit so many. I mean, you can't go beyond that. It's like trying to manufacture more money than what you have. You can't do it.
So again, there is a proximity protected locations for adult use retail. And it's can be found through the website. There are currently, let's see, of course, they put the thing right over. There are 90 adult use retail locations in the greater Rochester. Oh, now it's switched to 64. I don't know. In the, what I'll call greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, there's 64 dispensaries total. As you start to zoom in, there are currently 5 operating. There are 4 others that have requested a license but not been granted, including this one at the location. So in theory, I see about a spot for one more additional one Again, maybe two if, depending on how tight they try to squeeze in there, but that's assuming they can even find a store that's willing to do that. Yeah, that's that now, yeah. So, anyway,
2,000 feet is pretty close to a half a mile. There's got to be running out of space.
right.
It's only 1,000 feet, right?
Yeah, but it's 1,000 in each
It's
direction.
1,000 in
Right,
each
yeah.
direction. Get right. So.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Then hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the special use permit application number 2024-027 Shady Grove Dispensary.
You closed the public hearing, but I did get a comment here. I'll let you, do you want me to read that?
Why don't we do that while we're discussing the potential resolution?
Deal.
Did you want to put forth a resolution, Rick?
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 2024-027 to approve the Shady Grove Dispensary, 3047 West Henrietta Road, to operate a retail cannabis dispensary.
Second, before we get to that comment, was there any other conditions besides the 6 already read that we wish to add?
No, besides, I wish it was in the adult area, but we can't do that.
Right. Okay, what's the comment, Becky?
The comment is from Walter Liss. He says there are, I believe, 5 wine and spirit stores in Henrietta, of which 2 are what I consider first-rate retailers. That is, they provide great service and product knowledge to guide customers. I hope that we will be able to say the same for this cannabis retail applicant.
We'll do our best.
I will note, we've had 0 problems with any of the legal cannabis dispensaries. We've only had problems with the illegal ones. And as I've said before, I get frustrated by some of both the state's inaction and our district attorney's inaction with regards to getting those ones shut down. I don't know why it's taken so long. There have been a few of them in town shut down. There are others still not only illegally operating, but a couple have been caught red-handed selling to minors. And I don't understand how they're still around.
A couple
That is
caught,
really frustrating.
and one caught with a lot in
More
the,
than
in
just
the building
cannabis.
when there was a fire.
Yeah. You know, and one of the things, the one illegal shop that was the town and the fire marshal shut down, and somehow they were able to reopen. I don't understand that from the court's standpoint. But they were processing, the room in which they were processing their cannabis was super humid, and as a result, there was some mold or mildew getting into the product, and people were getting sick from it. How that's still operating, I just don't understand it. The DA always gets mad at me when I say it, but I'm sorry, it hasn't been prosecuted, so that is really frustrating to me.
I don't understand why they can't go after them for tax evasion. I mean, they're obviously not, we're not getting our tax money like we were promised, and, you know, and the state's not getting their money.
Right. They could. Again, there's lots of things they can go after them about. They don't even have. Hopefully there are, rumor has it out on the street that the next wave of shutdowns is coming. So hopefully that we'll see that here in Henrietta. Coming up.
Nick Hirsch again, 62 Wick Line. Did you actually maybe look into like what the legal reasoning is as to why they were permitted to open up again? I mean, considering that but you say you don't understand how, I can understand that, but did you bother to try to look into
We
why?
did. The judge said yes. The judge basically allowed him to reopen.
Did he give a reason? Wasn't there some kind of decision with a reason behind it?
There was, have I studied every legal
Oh,
course? No. So
I'm just talking about that decision. I'm talking about every,
I understand, but my point is there's a lot of these decisions that come down, not just that one. I rely on the expertise of the sheriff's office and the prosecutor's office and stuff. And
Did they give you any explanation as to what the reasoning was as to why they were permitted to open back up again, considering that this was a major violation and should not be permitted?
they swore that they weren't going to do it again.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's just-
That's my synopsis of it, but that's essentially what it came down to.
That's unbelievable.
I don't disagree. Any other comments?
I'll comment that us who want to have a legal shop want to see those stores shut down. We want them coming through our door. you know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We agree. And just so people are aware, you know, when we went back when we had the option, the choice to opt in or opt out of this law, one of the things we discussed is, one of the things you did not have the ability to opt out of is whether the consumption of cannabis was legal in your town. It is legal in our town. It's legal across the entire state. And so our belief was, if we're going to have the potential issues of people consuming cannabis, we might as well get the revenue from the sale. And just so people understand how that is, so in the first quarter, when there was one shop open, not even full the whole quarter, the revenue from that was about $50,000 a year. Quarter two, when there were two shops open for most of the time, I don't know if a third one opened before the end of the quarter. The revenue was $160,000. So, you know, one of the things we've talked about is, as we were looking ahead from at the double-digit increase in healthcare costs, the double-digit increase in retirement costs, all that stuff, we were looking at a potential fairly hefty increase in town taxes. It will hopefully, I still expect there might be some, but it won't be as hefty as it once would, because this represents probably north of $500,000 in revenue that now does not have to be levied out to property owners in the form of property tax. So there are financial benefits to all Henrietta residents by having these businesses here in Henrietta, as opposed to, let's put it frankly, right, if they're on the north side of Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, we have all the same problems and none of the benefits. So whereas again, I think we've kind of reached saturation point, and hopefully other businesses will start to look at that and say, maybe I won't open up here because there's too much competition. There's also a mentality of some business owners that I can do it better. And so I'm going to open up and those other guys are going to close down because they're not as good at business as I am. And
You know it.
Seen that with restaurants. We've certainly seen that with stores. For many years, the town supported three, it could support what I've referred to 2.5 hardware stores. And I say the half because one of those was Chase Pitkin, who was essentially subsidized by Wegmans. And every time the third hardware store came in, one of the other ones squeezed out. Again, not counting Chase Pitkin, although eventually Wegmans closed down Chase Pitkin. So we've seen that before. Gone was Heckinger's, gone was, I don't remember. Grossman's. Yeah, there was a bunch of them. Right. And that's the nature of business. This is a free enterprise system. So again, that goes back to why we're not allowed to play favorites and say the businesses we've got, those are the only ones that can be here. No other competition can come in for them. That's not sufficient grounds for denying a special use permit. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead. You were going to say something?
I just said thank you.
You bet. Okay. Then hearing no further comments and hearing no additional conditions to be added to the resolution, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Nay?
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. I assume you now go back for your full license from the OCM?
Well, I gotta give you guys a building permit so I can put up 3 walls. Well, 2 walls and a half wall. And then I can apply for my C of O, then I can get the final on my license.
Yeah, so I'll be sending, when the letter comes out, we will forward that to the Office of Cannabis Management to let them know that you have local approval. That is one of the things that they did improve on that process is they don't grant the final until they have local approval for the location, so.
Well, yeah, we gotta have the C of O in the building and everything. There's a whole chain of stuff we gotta do for the final. So
Okay, thank you very much.
When do you think you're gonna open? I didn't answer that question.
I'm hoping we can get this going within the next 2 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have special use permit application number 2024-028, Chipotle Mexican Grill, Cary Ventures West Henrietta LLC, 4775 West Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant with sit-down and takeout meal service, outdoor seating in drive-through, and the sale of alcohol.
Good evening, members of the board.
Evening.
My name is Sean Condon. I'm a senior project engineer with DDS in Henrietta. With me on the Zoom is Kate Betty, the design manager for Chipotle Mexican Grill. We're here tonight for the special use permit for 4775 West Henrietta Road, Lot 2, involving a new Chipotle takeout restaurant with drive-through pickup lane and outdoor patio for dining, and the sale of alcohol in a commercial B1 zoning district. As you may know, a master plan was created and approved for the 2021 for 3 commercial lots in this area. The first of which was developed recently. It's the Burger King. We're now proposing the Chipotle restaurant on Lot 2. This development is consistent with that approved plan. Our proposal includes a 12-foot wide drive-through lane for pickup orders only, 26 parking spaces, new utilities, stormwater management, and new lighting and landscaping, all of which were similar to the plan that was presented previously. So I'd like to open it up to questions. I can answer all the engineering and site related questions, and Kate should be able to answer any operations and day-to-day questions.
So just so people who haven't seen the plans are aware, this is in between the Burger King and the Wendy's. It has a shared entrance with the Burger King, both off of West Henrietta Road and off of Lehigh. Although, is that driveway out to Lehigh?
Yes.
It is installed? Okay,
Yep.
I've not gone that route. Don't tell your client, but I'm not a big Burger King person. And I think we had the answer to last night. This is operating in addition to the existing Chipotle that's over on Jefferson Road. Is that correct?
That's correct, right, Kate?
Yes.
Is Cary Ventures, is that the same operator of that other store? Or is this a different franchisee or?
These are all corporate owned restaurants.
corporate-owned.
We're not franchise.
Gotcha. Okay, so you operate the corporate store essentially?
Yes, we have regional managers, and the restaurant will have its own individual restaurant manager. But we're all headquartered crew, all corporate crews in the locations.
Got it. Okay. Wasn't sure how some do franchise, some do corporate stores, some.
Sean, how much square footage was this building again?
2,235.
Sean, the trees that are on the north side between that and Wendy's, it looks like they're Wendy's trees. Gonna disturb them at all?
No, not Wendy's trees, but there are 4 trees on our property that need to be removed.
Okay, are you gonna, okay. But you know the ones I was referring to.
Yeah, the ones that are in their landscape islands.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
no,
wasn't
we're not-
sure how far
Yep.
over they were actually, so those won't be. What are the hours gonna be?
The hours are 10 a.m. I'm 10:45 a.m. until 10 p.m. The employees come in at 7 though to start prep, and they'll be there until about 11 o'clock to close up.
Okay, and how about deliveries? Because I see that, I see that from the plans, there's not a lot room for delivery trucks or anything. And I live near a fast food restaurant where they deliveries in the middle of the day, and the parking lot people are backing up, turning around. It's a cluster. And so anyways, are all your deliveries going to be before you open?
So yeah, Chipotle, we strategically plan it. And one thing about Chipotle is we don't have freezers in the store. Everything is made fresh. We don't have freezers, we don't have microwaves, we don't have can openers. It's all fresh ingredients. So we require more deliveries throughout the week than other chains do. So for that reason, we can have our deliveries come in smaller trucks. We don't need the big tractor trailers. We have box trucks. And they do come after hours. They usually come between midnight and 6 a.m.
Okay. And then on the drive-through, I was looking at the plans. I really couldn't see where the menu and microphone was set up to place your order. Was that right at the curve there, or right before the curve?
So Chipotle's a little different. We don't have a typical drive-through like you would see at Burger King or Starbucks. Our the way we do things is we do pickup orders only. So to get something from our pickup window, you have to order online digitally. So we don't have speakers, we don't have menu boards. So they just to give you a little background how that works is we have an algorithm when you order online for your order, and you are assigned a specific time to come through the line to pick up your order, and they are spread apart in 5-minute increments. And the algorithm does not allow those times to get doubled up. So it spreads out the traffic, especially during busy times. So then people come in to pick up their digital order, they would just come through line for their designated time to pick up. So that limits traffic, that limits line backup, and it eliminates the need for speakers or order boards. You really won't see more than 2 cars in line at the same time because of this process. Except for lunch, you may see 3. We've done a ton of studies on this, so it's very efficient. And then you don't have the, you don't have the aesthetics of a big menu board and speaker there either.
Well, you just answered a few of my questions and a few of my concerns right there. I mean, I was going to ask what the digital drive up meant. And so that answered that. And I was concerned with the drive-through itself not being wide enough for someone to get out if they needed to. But there won't be that. There's not a backup like you're saying.
Yeah, there wasn't, we do like to do what we call the bypass or escape lanes in a lot of our more populated cities. With the plot of land we had here, we didn't have that option, but you don't really have much of a backup. And with most drive-throughs, your average time from ordering to the window and getting your food is 6.5 minutes. It's about 2 minutes here. So if somebody if they're not used to the process yet and they accidentally get in line, they're only waiting a minute or 2. And then we have designated parking spaces. So if somebody comes through, our employees will teach them how to do a digital order. They can come in and order. Or if somebody picks up at the wrong time and comes up to the window outside of their slotted time, we'll have them pull into those designated parking spots, and we'll either bring the food out to them or they can come back around. So we kind of, we have a process that solves a lot of those issues of people backing up the line or getting stuck.
As you can probably tell, I've never been through your drive-through. So.
Well, hopefully you come through because it's good, just order your burrito online and come pick it up.
I have a question. I noted on your application that you checked the box for alcohol to be served. I will confess that I'm not a regular patron of Chipotle. Was that just to check a box? Is there going to be alcohol served on site? Will there be pickup alcohol? Could you explain why that was checked off?
Yeah, that was checked off for the option to serve alcohol. We do that in all of our sites, just so we have the option. To be honest, in a lot of instances, we don't serve it because you always have to make sure that you're staffed with somebody 18 and older, and that's not always the case. Sometimes there are headaches for it, but in localities where we do want to serve it, it's only beer. It's either Modelo or Corona. We don't allow the alcohol to go outside of the building, so you have to consume it inside of the building. And we do put notes on the exit doors telling our customers that. The only time we would allow it outside is if the patio was fully enclosed. And the only way they could get in or out of the location was through the side door back into the building. So we do regulate it. If in a location that does offer alcohol, it's only 1% of our sales. So alcohol purchases are very, very rare.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Sure. Sean, you mentioned that you guys are gonna get rid of 4 of your own trees. You're probably aware that we do have a tree bank here in Henrietta.
Yes.
Is there any problem donating trees to that bank?
So is that just replacing the trees? That's what we met with the conservation board recently
you
about.
did?
We had a conservation board 2 weeks ago.
Great.
So they gave us a count of trees that we need to hit in our landscape plan to provide that.
Yeah,
Thank
so either they can, they typically they make them replace them at the location.
Yep.
If you find out that you can't, one of the options that we have now is rather than, they used to forgive them for the extra trees. What we say now is if you can't fit them all on your lot, you can put one up in the town hall or town parks, because as you can imagine, after the emerald ash borer came through, we're still down a bunch of trees in town parks and can't afford to replace them all at once. So it's a way. Where it tends to be more common is with car dealerships, because car dealers don't like to have trees in between the road and their cars, whereas restaurants, it adds a nice feel to have the area surrounded by trees. So
Yeah, we met with the conservation board 2 weeks ago and they gave us, I think we only need one more tree from our landscape plan, and then there's some species stuff that needs to be revised, but that was the result of that.
Okay.
My other concern is, like I said, it's pretty cramped. It's a small area for a store, and I'm just concerned about parking. That's the only real concern I have.
And you don't have any land bank parking in this?
No,
right?
no, and we meet the code requirements for parking.
well, the other thing I suspect will happen too is with the close proximity of the other parking space, I suspect people will park there. To be honest, when I look at these, I rarely see with this amount of parking, I rarely see them full. The only exception might be like during grand opening.
They get full at the other store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying as far as these quick service restaurants.
Right.
yeah.
I can tell you down by me, the McDonald's there, it's the parking lot's a mess. Is it, but they have the gas pumps there too, but it has a lot to do with the restaurant itself.
Right.
Makes it a mess there.
So you have enough dirt over there, huh, to put a tree in, hey?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't know, we will.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Are there any questions from the public? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2024-028 Chipotle Mexican Grill. Moment, please. I wish these would open up as separate files so you didn't have to jump through it. Such a annoyance. No, I've got it. I just had to get down. Because when you're looking at the one for the thing, you have to close that out and then reopen the resolutions. Fellow board members, I have resolution 17-246, 2024 to adopt the secret determination, issue a negative declaration, and approve special use permit application number 2024-028 for a Chipotle Mexican Grill by Carey Ventures West Henrietta LLC for a new restaurant at 4775 West Henrietta Road.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
All right. Congratulations. Do you have a estimated time of opening? I know it's a long way off. I don't know if you've got a target for when you want to have this thing built.
Yeah, we're looking for or like a January 2026 opening, but we are ready to move faster if things fall into place.
Great. Sounds good.
Sean's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should. Thank you guys. This is great. We're very, very excited to be coming in.
They're the ones who have to build and meet that aggressive schedule. So, my son, who frequented your
Thanks,
restaurant,
John.
he just
Thank
left
you.
for college, so you're down one regular customer, but
Oh no, we'll have more, I'm sure.
He'll be calling in from wherever he is.
that's right.
Yeah, they're popping up everywhere. He'll be
Yeah.
all set.
Call in, I'll go pick it up.
All right. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2024-016, Ted Hosmer, 1243 Lehigh Station Road, to allow the building to be utilized as migrant farm worker housing with a maximum of 6 occupants, a maximum of 6 concurrent documented migrant farm workers. We have a representative.
Yes, I am here, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good. So this one is coming back for those who aren't aware. There was a further clarification of how the pre-existing non-conforming use exemption works. Basically, I had originally been under the understanding that when you switch to a different use, legal use, you couldn't go straight back to the pre-existing non-conforming use. It's actually, our town attorney informed me that if it's, it has to have been not operated in its pre-existing non-conforming use for more than a year or a year and a day, whatever you want to say. And so when we got that information to Mr. Hosmer, he requested to come back and that we would put a expiration date on the special use permit. For those who weren't around or don't recall, the house currently is a single family residence, but it is in an industrial zone. So that's why it was one of the original houses on the street. That's why it's pre-existing non-conforming. Under agriculture, so ag and markets law under New York State, they make a distinction between farm worker residence and farm worker housing. And the difference is in the farm worker residence, the family lives there with the farm worker. In a farm worker housing, it is only farm workers. That's it. And so under that use, it's more of a commercial use than it is a residential use under ag and markets. And so in our industrial zones, you can have an other retail use or other, other commercial use as long as with a special use permit. So that's why we're here. Ted, do you wish to give any further overview of what you're doing or?
No, just as we spoke before, housing for the migrant workers from April 1st to either 12/1 or 1/1 of the, so it's about approximately 8 or 9 month period.
Yeah, so the way we have it written currently is that this special use permit will expire on December 31st, 2024, or upon the resumption of use of the property as a code compliant single family residence, whichever occurs first. So, and I will ask this question because it came up at the workshop. Whatever farming they're doing, if that finishes in November and you want to then go back to renting it out as a single family residence, the instant you do that, essentially this permit becomes null and void. the question that came up Monday was, what are these farmers working on? That-
Quite, no, go ahead.
I
Did you
just,
finish?
we weren't aware of a farm right immediately there, so we just weren't sure what they were harvesting.
Being Christmas trees, in that time of the season, we're actually quite busy.
Gotcha. Yeah, we
Uh,
just weren't sure which, like, again, what agriculture they were working on, so. Any questions?
No, just answered it. Christmas trees.
Yeah,
And I think when I was reading it, it said 6 males documented.
correct. They have to, right, they have to be documented
Right.
under
But the
this, yeah.
Total, no more
And then
than
he,
6.
right, and that 6 comes from the Department of Health, is that correct, Ted? Who?
Yes, it is.
For 6, yeah. Yeah, so that's where the limit of 6 comes from. Was the maximum occupancy that the county determined that particular house could hold.
So, Mr. Hosmer, I had the question about what you're farming. Where's your farm located for the Christmas trees?
I actually have a couple different properties. The one being in Henrietta is on East Henrietta Road.
Okay,
It's
know where that
near,
one is.
Good Berlin.
yeah,
Right.
I know where that one is. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Come on up.
Larry Neal, 14 Mertensia in Henrietta. I had a question just, after the Christmas season, do they then return back to, I think they're coming from Germany, is that correct? And then maybe you bring them back the following year, or are they here for the year?
No, these workers are from Mexico.
Oh.
And shortly after Thanksgiving, they're all about getting back to Mexico. I can only have them for up to 8 months, and it's a very strict policy with the federal government.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Supervisor, is the reason this is now acceptable is that it's a reinterpretation of what the existing law is? Is that because?
It's nothing to do with the existing law. I assume you're talking about the town code?
Town code is. what I
Yeah,
hear.
so because again, under Ag and Markets law, they differentiate between a residence, so he can't have the 6 individuals there as a single family residence because it doesn't meet the definition of a single family. So that's why he can't do it just have them living there in the single family residence. That's consistent all across town. Under Ag and Markets law, they make a distinction, as I said, the difference between if the workers had their families there, they would be considered a residence and they would be limited the same way as all the other homes. But they make it and therefore be allowed in an industrial zone with a special use permit.
So it was a clarification. Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Whatever. Okay. I did have just one comment also. When I was a kid, I lived out in Marion, out in Wayne County, and they had a former German POW camp, which turned into migrant workers, and it worked out very well. And it worked out well because the migrants came in with their families, their wife and their kids and everything. And it was very organized as to what they would do on the weekend. My question is, do you just have something that keeps these people involved over the weekend when they're not working? I mean, as far as where I live, they played soccer or something like that, but do they have something to do other than work? Is there somebody who is looking in on them to make sure that they're okay?
Is this question for me?
I guess.
It was hopefully for you, yeah.
Okay. They stay very busy. They work 6 days a week. They would work 7, but I don't allow them to do that. They have their own families that every evening after dinner, they're on Skyping with and Zooming with and talking with and managing their lives as if, they were still with them. They don't drink, they don't smoke. They're the hardest working people that take pride in their work. It's refreshing.
Okay, are there families in the Rochester area or they're back in Mexico?
No, it's long distance. Their families are in Mexico. Each one has about 4 to 6 kids.
Right. The concern for them is that they have something to do when they're not working. You know, they don't have their families here, but okay, thank you very much.
So there's nothing prohibiting them from playing soccer, playing cards, playing Settlers of Catan, you name it. They can go out.
Church.
Right. It's lots of things, right?
I mean, we've grown a relationship.
They could go to church, they could eat at Chipotle. All right, go ahead.
Speaking to me, quite honestly, you know, we've gained a relationship. If you check out their Facebook, you can see that, you know, Diego went to Niagara Falls. I encourage them that, you know, they're not here just to work, but they have to live also. And, you know, the Finger Lakes is a beautiful region and, you know, they take advantage of it. I know Ivan just recently got back from Florida. He visited his brother that works down in Florida for the last 4 days for his birthday. So they definitely have lives outside of work and, you know, it's all healthy.
Right, good to hear. All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the special use permit application number 2024-016 for Ted Hosmer.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I would like to offer resolution number 17-247, 2024 to approve a time-limited special use permit application number 2024-016 for migrant farm worker housing at 1243 Lehigh Station Road.
Second.
As I usually do when there's conditions, I read those conditions. Condition 1, that prior to being occupied by farm workers, the building be approved by all applicable agencies, including the town building and fire prevention department. Number 2, that only documented agricultural farm workers may occupy the premises. No family members may reside in the structure as it is no longer considered a residence while operating as migrant farm worker housing facility under this special use permit. Non-farm workers residing in the building may result in the revocation of this special use permit by the town board. And number 3, that this special use permit will expire on December 31st, 2024, or upon the resumption of use of the property as a code compliant single-family residence, whichever occurs first. Any other questions, comments? Any other conditions? And hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Ted, I will just note that keep in mind, it's not just when this permit expires. Is it considered the pre-existing non-conforming use? You will need to sometime before the 1-year mark from today, you will need to have somebody living there, you know, occupying it again for it to truly be that use. Does that make sense?
Yes, yep. I already have a tenant for January 1st.
Perfect. All right. Okay. Thank you. And next up, I have public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the zoning code of the town of Henrietta to further encourage the revitalization of vacant, dormant, and or dilapidated commercial properties and to expand the development of affordable housing for persons of low or moderate income. So what we're proposing to do, there's a couple different things. One, already in the incentive zoning for commercial revitalization, as well as in the mixed use revitalization area, it talks about one of those benefits is affordable senior housing. The law proposes just to get rid of the word senior so that it could also be just affordable housing in general. One of the advantages to doing them like what you saw at Marketplace Mall, where the affordable senior Marketplace senior housing went in, that's an affordable senior housing complex. One of the things we hear constantly is we need affordable housing in town. just not in my backyard. Now, most people aren't quite that blunt, but that's essentially what they're saying. The advantage of these locations is they're not in anybody's backyard. So there really are, in addition to that, those areas are bus loops, there's walkable amenities. They really do work out well as locations for affordable housing. And again, some of these places have sat empty for a long time. The parking lots have gone way downhill and are in need of repairs. The storefronts look horrible. So injecting new life and new money, if you haven't driven by the Marketplace senior housing, you can see how gorgeous those look. So much better than the empty lot that was there from way back when General Cinemas closed down. If you don't remember General Cinemas, you haven't been here. And well, I don't know, it was 40 years ago it closed, I think. I don't know, 30 something.
Right.
So anyway, the second thing is that some of the other incentive zonings, we have this incentive zoning districts. We have this concept of complementary uses, which basically are other uses that normally wouldn't be allowed there, but what can fit in that area and complement the allowed uses in that area. In this case, some of those, it's a open list. In this case, it is a defined list. What we did when we put this law together is we went through, because it also applies to the mixed use revitalization area. We went through the list that they have of all the uses, and we changed some of them from not allowed to only allowed with a special use permit as part of incentive zoning. And so that same list of uses are the same ones that would be allowed in a commercial zone under incentive zoning. And, you know, again, one of the places that we're looking at for this is Southtown Plaza. We have some interest in revitalizing that plaza. Anyone who's been there as of late knows it certainly can use revitalization. One of the major national companies that wanted to come in there, they wanted to do self-storage in the old Burlington Coat Factory, which has sat empty for 6+ years. That would be an example of a complementary use. Normally that's not allowed in retail areas, but as part of a incentive zoning application, they could put that in. You know, one of the things that, as you heard me talk about previously in terms of special use permit applications, you know, it's a very regimented process. There's these list of conditions. If you meet those conditions, we are supposed to grant the special use permit application. Incentive zoning, it's kind of the other way around. Incentive zoning, we can say this is what we are interested in seeing, and if they're unwilling or unable to meet that, we can say no. And so incentive zoning is, what the idea of it is, again, it's a way to, you know, we realize these areas are struggling. They're having trouble filling them, and therefore the owners aren't putting a lot of money into it. If they can get a big player or two to come in and do something there, then they're willing to put that money in. But one of the things we would do is make it conditioned on them doing those improvements, on them doing those repairs. In the Southtown Plaza standpoint, it's going to be, and again, just to be clear, there is no application as of yet today. This is just opening the way for that one, as well as in a couple other areas, because like another one has sat empty for a long, long time, and they've struggled to get somebody in there, is Gander Mountain. So that's another one that's also in this same revitalization area, and could take advantage of this change in law. So that's what we're looking to do. Questions?
I think it's a great idea. That plaza needs a lot of help.
Yep. Mr. Neal?
Larry Neal, 14 Mertensia, Henrietta, and 21 years on the planning board. And when I first read this thing, I was very confused as to what was, you were trying to do. And I understand it better now, but from a planning board perspective, what is the impact going to be on them when they're basically supposed to be following town codes for residential? And now if you're putting it into Southtown Plaza, a lot of things I think are not going to apply. I just want to, you don't have an answer for this.
No, I do.
understand.
I mean, it's the same thing the planning board did with regards to the Marketplace Mall Senior Apartments. That was done under the mixed use revitalization. And just to be clear, the residential is not one of those complementary uses. The only way they could have the housing there is if they do a mixed use project under the mixed use revitalization, which they're contemplating. So it would be the same thing that happened at Marketplace Mall. And that is in town code. I don't remember which article it is under zoning, but it's there. It does talk about what the rules are as far as density and all the other stuff with regards to, it's not single family, it's multifamily.
It's all going to be multifamily.
No, it can't all be I'm just saying it's
But the,
under
I'm sorry,
mixed
go ahead.
use, one of the allowed uses in a mixed use, there could be a certain percentage of it that is multifamily. And so one of the things, it doesn't have to be, it does not have to be affordable. They could come in tomorrow, even if we don't change this rule, they could come in tomorrow with a plan, and we know this because Marketplace Mall did it. They came in with a plan that in addition to the retail, they added medical and they added the senior housing. They happened to do it as affordable, but there wasn't a requirement to do it as affordable. Because they did not do it under incentive zoning. They just did it as part of the mixed use revitalization that we put in place in 2019. So that's been there for almost my entire time in office. And then we were putting the rules together in the first year. So,
we don't want to have a mall that was like in Irondequoit.
right.
So you change these codes so that you can revitalize those areas and not have vacant properties like we have right now in Southtown. And without U of R coming into Marketplace, who knows what
so,
a ghost town we might have there right now.
Right.
so it really wouldn't be intended for a single family that would
Oh, no, no,
move
no.
into a
No single family.
smaller,
No
vacant-
single family. No.
okay,
That's not an allowed use in these areas.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You cleared that up for me.
No problem. Any other questions? Anything online? Then I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the zoning code of the town of Henrietta.
Who's got that one? You?
Last up, we have a public hearing for a proposed large-scale solar project at 175 Tobin Road.
Thank you for having me today. You guys have a busy schedule. I do not envy your job. I'm Dan Huntington. I work for BW Solar Holding, Inc. I'm based here in Rochester. I'm representing the project, which we are calling Monroe 3, NYCDG Monroe 3 LLC. It's a subsidiary that owns the project of BW. And the project sits on just under 25 acres. It's under 25% of a 113-acre lot. We meet all the current requirements that are in the town law and are actively working with the different boards, the Conservation Board, the Planning Board. We have several meetings coming up in August and September. And we're excited to show that we can meet all the requirements of the town code and hopefully have an exciting operating project. I believe it would probably be the third or fourth in the town of Henrietta. And look forward to answering any questions you have. One thing we don't have in front of the board right now that we are actively working on is the tree study that was requested. The engineers were actually out there today. They're going to be out there the next couple days. We're trying to just identify all of the old growth trees. We actually incorporated 100-foot setbacks, even though that wasn't required as part of the town law, help reduce the amount of shading that is caused by older growth trees and limit the amount of tree trimming and tree clearing that we'd have to do. You'll see in the project spec sheet that we're roughly 1,500 feet back from the road. Originally with the landowner, we had some of the land in the front of his property, and we were actually able to do some horse trading with the tenant farmer and work with the landowner to get it further back. We felt that really incorporated what the town was looking to do with the solar law and maintain the look and feel of the area. So we pushed it as far back as we could. You'll also see on the plans, I believe the closest residential property is roughly about 700 feet away from the fenced area and the panels. The next closest property, I think, is close to 1,000 feet. And both of those properties do not have a direct line of sight. We have submitted screening plans that will also incorporate the natural buffers that are already there. We're going to try and keep as many of those as possible. But we think we've worked within the context of the law pretty well and the intention around the law that you guys passed.
I have a question, Dan.
Yes.
If you're at liberty to say, who's going to benefit from the solar array? Of this solar farm?
Sure.
It would be residents, would it be commercial?
Yeah, there's a multitude of benefits. We will be seeking a pilot, so we will be operating as a business in Monroe County and in Henrietta. So there will be pilot payments that go to the town, the school district, and the county. One thing I do like to mention is that we are a commercial business that requires no additional support from the town. So we're not asking for you guys to install any services, plumbing, electric. You're not maintaining any additional roads that you might have with like a residential neighborhood or commercial or mixed use. So the benefit of that pilot money going to the town, county, and school district is that we're not putting additional students into the school. So it's unearmarked, unallocated money that can go directly to the students that are already there. Additionally, there are programs where we can offer up to a 10% reduction on residential home users who are in the network that we're operating in. So if they sign up, they can benefit from that. There are no strings attached. You can opt in and opt out as a user and get that benefit. It is limited to how many homes we can actually service for the size of the project. It's not unlimited. So there is a benefit. Granted, if your utility bill's $100 a month, you're saving $10. But if you are counting pennies and trying to stay on a budget or saving for something big, every little bit helps. So there is literature that's put out in that regard. Also the town and the local region. We are seeing some areas that are struggling with generation. There is urban growth happening where there's more and more demand on our infrastructure, electric cars, more homes being built, businesses, and our infrastructure is aging. So if you can have projects like this in your town, it gives you a more robust supply of energy that can be used and allocated to this region. These smaller CDG, community distributed generated projects, do stay in the network they're on. So this has to be administered to a NYSEG region, NYSEG RG&E region. It can't go to other areas that aren't within their network.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great answer.
And also we would be buying materials locally. We will try to find, we talked with the town about, gravel and things of that nature. Fencing, supplies and construction equipment will be sourced locally. If we can hire local folks for certain pieces of it, obviously the electrical side is, high voltage. So we're going to be dealing with specialty, electricians, but for a lot of the other stuff, it's very simple construction, pounded posts, and general maintenance for lawn care and things like that.
Okay.
So just a couple notes so people understand. You won't see a resolution on here because we're still inside the 45 day for seeker, or 30 days, whatever it is. But we'd like to have this first public hearing so people can get out, hear some questions, ask some things, so that if there are concerns, they can fold those into their plans before they come back before the town board for the final approval. Just a note on the pilot, that is fairly standard. If these are assessed on the value of so the way utilities are typically assessed from a property tax standpoint, it's on the value of the infrastructure that's installed on the land. If you assess them at that amount, there will be nothing left to go to the farmers. And the whole purpose of this program is to allow farms to survive.
Income, yeah.
It's auxiliary income for the farms. This was done as part of our farmland protection plan. And I know it sounds contrary. We're taking away some of the farm. But the idea is, hey, if we sacrifice 25% of that farmland, we can preserve the other 75%. So I had a good meeting with the property owner and the farmer. He's very appreciative because he's, to date, these small farms, they do not operate in the green generally. Or in the black, they operate in the red. And so now that he's retired, that creates an issue for the upkeep of the farm. Just across the town line into Pittsford, that farm is being sold and turned into neighborhoods. We're trying to avoid that. In that regards, if any of these are up against the Pittsford town line, you don't need to maintain the buffer because they kind of ignore us. So I have no problem ignoring them. But one of the things that we try to do here, like I said, is to get that additional income for the farmer. And so the pilot helps that happen. We have a standard pilot that we've used for all these. It's $4,000 per megawatt. So if it's a 5 megawatt system, that's $20,000, of which half goes to the school, a quarter goes to the county, and a quarter goes to the town. The special districts still get paid off their rates based off of assessment. It's just I'll call them technically the 3 big ones, but we're actually much smaller than the fire district. I'll say the 3 municipal governments. So that's been pretty standard. It does include an escalation each year. And again, the county and the school district have agreed to those in the past. The school district has a funny system where they stay opted out of the program. When one comes up, if they agree to it, they opt in, they approve the pilot, and then they opt back out. I'm not sure how legal that is, but that's what they do. I will note that while this will help from a power supply standpoint, most of Henrietta's issues have to do with power issues. It's not a question of supply. There's plenty of supply. It's a question of our substations are maxed out in capacity. From a distribution standpoint. So we're working with RG&E in addition to working with the state to try to get the funds to put in a whole new transformer in one of our substations. We're also working on, can we take there's what I'll call it's the substation off of Lehigh Station Road in West Henrietta. That one is at essentially zero capacity. And so what they're trying to do is, can they change some of the lines so that we're pulling power from some of these other surrounding substations that still have capacity and just shifting who draws power where. So we're trying to get to solutions so some of these things can come in, especially because we have a number of housing projects that are delayed because of it. We also have at least one job where the business, it's not only a question of new jobs, but the business is expanding. And if they can't expand here, they're going to move elsewhere. So not only will we not gain the new jobs, we'll potentially lose the jobs. So, but again, we've been working, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of somebody who's essentially has a monopoly on power in the region.
You and me both.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't.
It's tough to deal with the utility. They are the 10,000-pound girl in the room that tells you what to do.
Going back to this specific project, one of the things I would ask that you take a look at is in some of the areas, if some of that can be shifted to the portions that are less favorable as farmland. I know there's some wetland buffers nearby, although some of it is just, I'll call it mushier, wetter ground, not necessarily wetlands. As much as you can push into there as possible. I'd love to see that on the plans because again, The goal of this is to preserve as much farmland as possible. And the mushy soil, now I realize it'll make construction a little more difficult, but let's face it, once the solar panels are in, they're in, right?
Yeah, so we did conduct a wetland delineation and we were advised by the engineers, which is Tetra Tech, that it would be classified as a DEC wetland, given its size. And they impose certain restrictions on us. Once it is of a certain size, current regulations are 12 acres and change. I believe that's actually going down in the years to come to about 8 acres and change. When it's designated as either Army Corps of Engineers or DEC, DEC applies a 100-foot setback that you can't build in either that or the setback. If it's Army Corps of Engineers, you are capable of building in it. There are some nationwide permits that you have to get. You can do things like pounded post, but you can't use any backfill. So there are regulations and ways in which you can do it. If we tried to push into this wetland, there'd most likely be some type of offset that we would have to pay for, or create wetlands somewhere else. Additionally, that area has pretty heavy
You're not
forested.
just stopping the wetland though.
Say that again?
I'm not clear why you'd have to do offset since, okay, I'd have to offset the diameter of the post. You know, the thing, when I went out to the environmental resource mapper, I did not see any wetlands on their actual property.
So that's the kicker is they don't go out and map every wetland in New York State. We have to do that and we present it to them and then they add it to their mapper. So you may not find a designated wetland there currently, but because we have to report that to them, they're going to add that into their resources and show that that is actually part of a wetland. Also in New York State, if you do have a significant wetland of 12 acres or more, they can actually ask you to go off property and survey if it's contiguous on other properties. We know for a fact that on Mr. Finnegan's land, it does actually go onto the neighboring property and is part of a larger wetland. So we're pretty confident without having gone through a DEC permit situation. We did have Army Corps of Engineers come out and they did state that it was DEC jurisdictional. So we do have that notification from Army Corps of Engineers. I'm pretty sure that's included. They actually told the landowner that he had to restrict some of his access in that area. You can do certain things like you can till the land, but you can't operate a tracked piece of equipment. So it's very counterintuitive for what you're allowed to do there. But that's why we
pull them with horses. Yeah.
Good question. We joked about it as well.
Got any Belgians?
Yeah. And so that is something we looked at. We actually were originally supposed to operate in that area. And that was one of the reasons we had to talk to them about potentially switching, because we didn't think we were capable of operating in that area, given the restrictions that the DEC applies.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we are operating in a farm field. But what we tried to do is restrict it to an area that's the very back of the property, utilizing all the natural barriers that are there. And try to limit our disturbance to the treat areas because we know the Conservation Board has some hard rules around that.
Great.
So Dan, I just want to confirm, you're not one of the other companies that have already built a wetland, or I'm sorry, a solar array in Henrietta?
No, we are not.
Okay. So one of my questions is when you talk about the 100-foot setback with the 25 acres, we had an issue with one about I would say just a little over 2.5 years ago, that they built to their 25 acres, their maximum amount they were allowed. And then they came back to the then town board and got approved to trim back more trees, and some of them were rare trees and large trees. So when you talk about the size of this, does that include all the trimming of the trees? I don't want to be sitting here in 6 months or a year from now and find out that, oh, we got to move, you guys put up your solar array and now we might have a little shading that, I don't know what you figured out.
Yeah.
Back then, Steve, it was some tiny percent.
Very small.
Very small percent, but then they moved out and got it approved at.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was some confusion on the part of some of the members of the town board and it passed when it.
All I know, the owner was not happy about those trees being.
Right.
But the setback you're talking about, is that from the edge of the fence to the first panel? Or
That's
is
from the
that-
property line to the actual panels, or I believe the fence.
Okay.
We do have 20 feet in between the panel and the fence. I would have to double check if that's set at the actual panel. I know your town law indicates that the fence is considered the outside boundary.
It is.
Yeah.
The big thing is, so just the point being that, because when I look at the field, the trees are around the perimeters. Now, some of those trees are in the wetlands, so they can't touch them.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is, you're saying it's 100 feet from there, so you shouldn't see shade issues?
Yeah, our hope is we did a production analysis, a helioscope, they call it, where we basically plotted that using GPS and showed what, satellite ranges were for what we thought the tree height was, and where that shading would happen. We are going to submit that as part of our tree plan as well. But yes, the 100-foot setback was the intention to eliminate any type of shading that would happen on the array. We are using trackers, so they start out facing the east in the morning. They track with the sun, also eliminates glare. So the main focus for where we'd be looking at tree trimming or clearing, if it's even necessary, would be on the eastern and southern end, not so much on the western end, because once the sun comes down towards the end of the day, it's not as powerful. So the main focus is a lot of your power generation comes from the morning. And then throughout the day, we don't have to worry about the trees to the north of the array at all, because again, they'll be facing, they'll have a south facing azimuth.
But I just want to make sure those trees that are trimmed or taken down are part of your
Yes,
25 acres.
We would plan to identify
Right,
any
thank you.
actions there. And one of the other benefits is, some of these projects do take a year to 2 years to get fully built. I know my company specifically, because this is a smaller project, it's under 5 megawatts. We typically like to have 5 to 10 projects throughout New York State permitted at one time, and then you can go and order all the materials. You get a better price when you order in bulk, shopping at BJ's versus, Trader Joe's. So what we like to do is get 5 to 10 projects all together. That means we might sit on the project a little bit longer. The goal there being, when we go for a building permit, instead of using 650 watt panels, we might be able to procure 750s, 850s. And at that point, your footprint's actually shrinking, because you have higher production with the same design of panel potentially, right? They might be the same size. And so the goal and the hope would be that when we actually go to build, we don't need as large of a footprint as we have. So we try to design it to maximize the footprint and give us the chance to use all the land that we need without creating shading and production issues.
Okay.
So yes, we would try to stick as closely to that tree trimming or clearing plan. And we will talk through, if we do have to remove a tree, what would be an alternative to backfill it? We can do filler trees in certain areas that apply to the look and feel of the.
So typically you have to have a vegetative buffer to the surrounding properties. Again, as discussed earlier, you probably heard, if you do need to do additional trees and the property owner doesn't want any additional trees, they may. But if they don't, then your other option is you can replace trees at the town, in the town parks. But typically, like I said, what happens is a lot of times the property owner might say, hey, put some trees, around near my house, that type of stuff.
Right. Just to make it clear, you probably wouldn't get it approved today if for the trimming of those trees, more removal of trees, once it's done.
Yeah, we try to avoid old growth tree removal anyways. It's counterproductive to our business and our purpose anyways.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to that tree study when it's ready.
And one other thing is, you mentioned especially electricians coming in, possibly coming in from away. Just so you know, today I spoke to the president of the IBEW on a different matter. I'm sure he would be more than happy to get a list
there's
of
tons
people,
of them here. There's
list
tons
of
of them.
people that could do all this work for you. So that I don't think there'd be any issue or any need to hire somebody from out of town. For this
And I
project.
recommend you
Thank
reach out to them and go to their clam bake, because it's one of the best
Yes.
clam bakes.
Okay. I like plans.
That's why I was. So yes.
And yes, the tree trimming plan, we are trying to get 1 week prior to the September 3rd.
It has to be,
conservation.
yeah, it has to be in
Yep.
by that Wednesday.
Yep, we've
yeah.
been working with the engineering department's
Perfect.
clerk to make sure that happens.
Great. I had a good discussion with the property owner with regards to what's required from the agricultural conservation easement, you know, again, basically what what you and he would do is designate what area they consider to be the farmland as far as this application. So the property acreage is greater than is needed. So essentially you're 24 and change. So let's just call it 25. He needs to come up with 75 acres that have that conservation easement on it. So 100 acres total. You know, typically you carve out at least 1 acre around the house, but if he wants to carve out additional acreage, like if they ever want to have, you know, one of their kids build a house, and sub-parcel that out, they could do something along those lines, because again, they do have some extra acreage. I would suggest that it get done before the wetlands get designated. I just say that because normally designated wetlands have to be subtracted out. Currently, there are none, so they don't have to be subtracted out.
That's a very good suggestion.
So,
We will get moving on that.
That's right.
I would ask, we've been talking about it in depth for several months, trying to figure out what type of mechanism the town maybe had in mind when the law was passed. And, you know, we'll defer to some of your suggestions. We're just trying to figure out ways to administer this properly.
Yeah, so we have a fairly standard one we've used in the past, as far as an easement. You know, there is a section in there about continued use in the farm. One of the things to note, that agricultural easement essentially, because a lot of the solar developers look at it and there's this one clause in there about potentially significant penalties. If it's not used as a farm, they say, well, we don't have control whether he continues to farm it. That agricultural easement essentially preserves it as a farm. It doesn't have to be for solar, it doesn't have to be actively farmed and generating the revenue. That's more for things like, you know, like, so let's say you were growing hops and you wanted to have a microbrewery on place. That one, it is required because otherwise that's a way to get around, you know, oh, I put in what's essentially a commercial
Bar.
Right, bar, and then shut the farm down, right? That's the whole idea of that is, you know, just like you have at the wineries, is places for the wineries to make extra money. These, you know, in our town, these small farms, they just can't compete. When you look at inflation, the thing that has inflated the least amount is agricultural prices to consumers. So it's really tough. So we recognize that. We're trying to do these things. What you've got is, because someone from, I thought it was your company, maybe it was one of the other companies that raised this question. As long as that easement is in place, then you're protected from that. The only reason there would be penalties is if that easement was being violated. So like if he built a garage in a portion that was under the easement. Not if he built a silo or a barn, or if it was not a residential garage, but if it was a agricultural garage where he served, you know, the machine shop where he services his tractors, those type of things, those can be within the easements. Any agricultural use, doesn't matter what it is, can be inside there. But, you know, for things like a house or again, a garage for your cars, that kind of thing, those should be outside that easement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Do you have any?
Any sense to ask when you're gonna get this project started? You don't really know right now, but thanks for.
Our intention is as quickly as possible. We do plan on applying for NYSERDA incentives. Those were just renewed recently, but yes, as quickly as we can. We do have roughly 10 other projects actively being developed in New York right now. A couple are here locally. So yeah, we do want to have a few of them together before we actually start construction, but the goal is to get them up and operating as quickly as possible because we don't start seeing a return on that investment for several years. So the sooner we get it moving, the better. And yeah, those incentives through NYSERDA do sunset eventually. And they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So there is a rush to make sure you get some of that.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the public? Go ahead. No, 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 do not ask from your seat. Yep, please take the seat there. Come on up.
Yes, Nicholas Hurst, 62 Wickline Lane. I'm sorry, what is your name, sir?
Dan Huntington.
My question was, is that you mentioned something about that if people are going to sign up to get solar energy, right? That they would only see like a $10 reduction on their energy bill. My question is this, give or take,
10%.
or 10%, I'm sorry.
10% of your monthly.
Good.
Electric.
Could you sit so that you can use that microphone?
10% of your monthly usage.
So in other words, if your monthly usage, let's say over the summer and winter, it's different. Let's just say it's the summer, if it's like $60 or something like that, 10% of that would be $6.
Yes.
So my question is this, why would somebody want to sign up for that and have to, I mean, well, I guess my first question is, would those people that are doing that, would they have to put solar panels on their house? Or would they get a direct line from this farm that's being constructed? I mean, I know that there are houses that put solar panels on the roof.
None of the above for this.
What's that?
None of the above. So I assume this is community solar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So under community solar, if there is a project in your power grid, essentially in your district,
Yeah, I understand what.
you can sign up. There's as he mentioned, there's a limited number of slots. You can sign up and receive your power
From that company that runs that grid.
It
right.
just goes onto the grid. This is true with any, like when people say, oh, well, I've switched my power generation.
No, I
to
know
this
what you're saying,
company."
yeah.
It just gets put on the grid and pulled off the grid. There's not a direct connection other than through the distribution system.
Okay, so my question is, why would somebody even want to do that if it's only, I mean, I understand $6 is $6, but still, I mean, why would somebody want to go through all the hassle of having to do that? And I mean, they're only going to get a $6 difference. I mean, what is the attraction to this, considering that being an engineer myself and both mathematician and engineer, and I've worked on generators and studied about generators and that sort of thing, which is what RG&E uses to deliver power. Why would I want to switch from something that's coming out of my wall outlet that's completely 100% reliable to something that is still kind of like in its infancy stages? We're not really quite there yet. We're getting there, but not yet.
Sure. So first off, it's completely free. There's no cost to you signing up. Once you sign up, free. You can disconnect it whenever you want and offer to go back to whatever power generation they allocate to you. In simple terms, if a solar project generates 100 units of energy,
Which is how many watts? I mean,
I'm just using round
Okay.
round numbers
Okay.
for
Okay,
an
I got it.
example,
All
right?
right.
So we put 100 units of energy onto the grid. You're not directly getting one of those units that we generated, and it's not being sent to your house specifically. The company gets a credit, and then we can apply that to your bill through your utility provider.
oh, I see. So,
And so it's a match, it's a switch. Basically, you're getting a credit applied to your bill, and there's no change for how you're getting your electricity. It's not actually coming from solar. It's still going to the utility and to you.
but the thing is, utility company then is refunding you that amount. Is that it? Are they the ones that are
You
refunding on my
and
bill?
us. So when you pay your utility bill, we get a portion of that and your utility bill gets reduced. So you're still paying the utility,
Right.
and then your bill goes down and they give us a
Oh,
portion.
so that's how it works. So
Yes.
but you're getting a $6.
So it's still 100% reliable.
So you're getting a 10% reduction through the utility company just for signing up for that.
For free.
And that's how that's going.
So one of the things people ask in terms of like, okay, solar panel only goes on in the energy only goes on in the day. The
Right.
thing is, if you look at the amount of usage in the daytime versus at
No,
night,
not
it's
kind of-
significantly
I know
more.
that it's
So you're
completely
not
like-
getting, as he said, you're not getting those specific electrons. It's the amount of electrons that are going out. in
They're
the
going
grid
right, they're going out.
And how
It's
much
the-
you're pulling off.
It's the
yeah.
output as opposed to what you're drawing.
Correct. So, one of the questions I have on that, who will administer that community solar program? Will it be your company or is it someone else? Because there have been some folks who have gotten taken in
Yes.
by disreputable folks selling community solar.
Third parties in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some third parties who have given the industry a bad name. For certain NYSERDA incentives, you are required to show, like if you're operating in an LMI, a low market area, you do have to show that your customers actually qualify, and that's pretty labor intensive. We have typically partnered with third-party firms that are reputable in the area that have true proven track records of operating effectively.
So can I just get,
But that is a larger labor
Sure.
force that's outside of our specialty, so we typically work with.
But if you could let us know which of those you've, I'll say, contracted with or worked so that.
For sure.
Because again, people are gonna ask, well, how do I know that I'm working with a reputable one? So if you could get that to us so we could share that with the public, that would be great.
Yeah, we have to present that to NYSERDA as well if we go
Perfect.
after, low to moderate income or disadvantaged or less served population. We actually have to show who they are and that they qualify. So that information is provided to them. If we do go down that route, we can provide that to them.
Right, but I mean, even if you're just doing the regular community solar, whoever is selling that, the reputable dealers that you've reached out to and said, hey, will you sell the community solar for us? If we could get that name, so we're not getting Joe's Solar Shack selling.
exactly, because I've had that experience. I remember, I forget the name, it was Energy something or other. They wanted you to come around door to door. They want you to switch from RG&E to them. And then what happens is when you do, and then you want to switch back, they raise your bill and they charge you and, whatever, and you got to pay it. So my question to you is, when you say that you make sure they qualify and so on, has your company actually researched or looked into these other places that you're dealing with to make sure that they're reputable? And exactly what have you done to make sure that that's the case? What has your company done to make sure that's the case?
Yeah, so there are companies that have been operating for a long time that have reputable track records and reputable and that are well known in the industry. And so we would partner with someone like that.
Okay, and do you have the reports on that can be provided to the town board if they ask, or like what he's talking about, if they want the name or, check into it, you have those documents, right? Or no?
Yeah, we would give them the name of who we're partnering with, and they would clearly be able to see their track record of doing business.
And question I had for you was, you mentioned earlier about the infrastructure in Henrietta, about the substations, which is something I do know something about. My question to you is it that the substation that you were referring to is, when you say it's got zero, are you saying that it's at the point where it's overloaded, it can't handle anything else? Meaning if you
It's
go
not-
beyond,
It's not overloaded. If they were to hook other stuff to it, it would be overloaded.
it would be over,
Now,
so it's
what
at its limit.
what typically happens, they don't, so you go out to places like California, they do overload.
I know.
They will sell like 110% of capacity, right? And just hope that not everybody tries to draw it at once.
And that's what happened out there.
That's what gets the rolling blackouts. They don't do that here today. They've asked us, are we interested in that? We said, no, we want reliable power. So they're at 100% capacity on that particular substation. They either need to expand that substation and all the current spaces for transformers are filled. So they would either have to build additional transformers, or the other option, because it's the same area, they just put in that, it's called RARP, Rochester Area Reliability Project. It's a new substation off of East River Road. It is primarily a transmission substation, which.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, go ahead.
So it basically connects, it's along the lines of the main. Ag,
line.
Mohawk, high
Right.
voltage that go along. And then there's also, it connects to one that runs north-south.
So
It allows-
is that piggybacking off of that? Is that
Let
what?
me finish. So it
Okay.
allows, what that project did was allow, if one portion of the grid is low on transmission power, they can reroute, or if there's
okay.
a significant problem, that's how they're getting greater reliability. When they built it, they built some areas in there for a distribution transformers. They just didn't put the transformers in. To give you an idea, 35 megawatt transformer costs about 13 or 17. I don't know.
Is that
Between
why they
13
didn't
and
put them in? Is
17
because
million.
of the cost? Is that because of 17 million? That's a lot. Yeah, that's
Correct.
It's quite a
They
bit.
are very expensive. And so we've reached out to, so originally, Senator Cooney had it in the state budget for this year to put that money in there, to put it in place. When they were negotiating the budgets, the governor's office said, you don't need that in there because we have 20 million left in the Fast New York money, you can use that.
And what happened?
So they reconciled the bills, they pulled it out specifically earmarked for Henrietta. He then put in an application to use the Fast New York money. We were told you can't use Fast New York money for this project.
That's ridiculous. So after all that,
So we're not happy with the governor's office. County Executive Adam Bello and State Senator Jeremy Cooney have been working very hard. We are close to a deal to get enough money to get them, because one of the problems is RG&E won't even order the thing until
the money is there.
until they
'Cause
have
they
a
wanna get-
particular
yeah,
portion of
'cause
the
they wanna
money.
get paid.
So we're working with them on that, and those two individuals have been great on that. We've also had assistance from other areas as well. So hopefully we'll get that resolved. It's irrespective of this. But this
Is that the,
A, on a different transformer. B, this is a power supply, not a power.
no, I know,
so.
but is that the only transformer that's in that shape or are
It's the only one that's at zero.
what about,
Most of them are less than we have one that's at like 1.6 megawatts. Most of them are sub 1 megawatt.
are
as far as
those
the-
somewhat dated or are those also reaching capacity? You don't
we're
know.
getting off topic of this particular.
Well, I'm
public
just
hearing, so-
asking because,
I understand you're just asking. We're trying to.
okay,
This is not applicable to special use permit.
Dave, I just want to confirm one thing and might save you a lot of headaches in the future. When you mentioned 10%, that's 10% of the electric. That's not 10% of your total bill. That's not 10%.
Your electric bill, yeah.
That's
the
not
gas bill.
10% of the delivery charge. That's 10% of the electric.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a
Just
minute.
because it might save you a headache in the future. Thank you.
wait a minute, that's a question now. I just want to. So in other words, the delivery charge, which you get from RG&E, right, which is on the bill, there's a separate delivery charge for gas and electric. So when you say 10%, it's strictly just the electricity itself, the supply, not any of the other charges that are associated with the utility carrier.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So anybody else who wishes.
That's what
to
I
talk?
said, right? Thank you.
Anything online, Becky? I don't even know if we still have anyone online.
Nothing online.
All right. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I am going to close, I'm going to close this session of the public hearing, but we're going to keep the public hearing open for our next meeting because again, we're not ready to act on this yet. So, sometimes, like I said, we hear from neighboring properties, although I know to the south, they're in touch with the farmer there. The only one I expected that might have been here is the house that's off of Pinnacle Road that kind of backs up to the western border here, but
Yeah, that's about 700 feet away and there is topography that makes it difficult. We did a quick line of sight analysis and where their house is located, there's a berm and then it drops down and with the
Right.
trees staying in place, it would be very difficult for them to see outside of maybe a second story window during leaf off times in the winter.
right. Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
5-minute break.
You need a bio break?
Anybody else?
Take a 5 minute.
Sure. We're gonna do a 5-minute bio break and then we will get on to the resolutions.
Mr. Pickens?
I did mute the main meeting room while we were on break, so I just will need the main meeting room
Working on
unmuted.
it.
There we go. Got it.
I might have been through this before, so I'd already asked him to unmute us.
Oh,
All right.
perfect. Thank you. I could see your mouth moving and I was worried that you were talking to me.
No, although it does come up on the screen that says you're muted. All right, can I get my next resolution?
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have Resolution 17-248, 2024 to approve and or ratify the following agreements.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing no comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have Resolution 17-249, 2024 to authorize bills payable and any associated contracts or agreements for August 6, 2024 through today, August 21st, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 17-250, 2024 to call for a public hearing for a local law to amend the provisions of the tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance personnel to update and expand the exemption allowed for real property taxes.
Second. So one of these, I think this is the one that they are repealing the previous bill or section and putting in the new section. Amy, correct me if I'm speaking about the wrong one of these. And so we're going to amend our code to apply to the correct section and to hit the maximum exemption of up to 10%. One of the things that's happened is the maximum exemptions that they allow with a lot of these, they kind of set some of the limits based off of the idea that, oh, I don't want to give a massive exemption for a really high-end home. The problem is that property values have shot up so much since about 2018, 2019, that the number that used to be considered a high-end home is now almost an entry home.
Right.
And so a lot of these things unfortunately are out of date, but Amy, did you have any additional comments, or did I get it?
So, hi, Steve. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So this is also, the state is also allowing us to locally adopt two things for unremarried surviving spouses in certain circumstances. If a 20-year volunteer was to pass, the unremarried surviving spouse could continue to receive the exemption as long as it was in place at the time of the volunteer's death. The second circumstance is if the volunteer dies in the line of duty, the unremarried surviving spouse could continue the exemption if the volunteer had the exemption for at least 5 years and at the time of their death. Currently, we have about 40 people that have this exemption.
Great, thank you. I forgot
Yep.
about that part.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Any questions, comments? And hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, have resolution 17-251, 2024 to call for two public hearings for two local laws, updating the town code to increase the maximum exemption allowed for real property tax exemptions for alternative veterans and Cold War veterans.
Seconded.
So just to be clear, this is a single resolution calling for the public hearings, but they will be two separate local laws, will be passed independently of each other.
Can I ask, what's an alternative veteran?
Sure. I don't know that I can answer that, but Amy might be able to answer that.
So alternative veterans are those who served during wartime, specific dates.
Okay. Other than the Cold War.
Cold War is outside of wartime.
Right. Okay.
I'm just wondering what makes them alternative.
They had no alternative but to serve.
I don't know why, I don't know why it's called that.
Yeah, you would think it would be called combat veterans or something, but I don't know. Or wartime veterans, who knows? I guess alternative was an alternative name to wartime.
It's driving me nuts. I had that.
Yeah, I remember she said it was wartime. I just didn't know why they were called alternative. They like alternative music. I don't know. Okay, any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 17-252, 2024. To call for a public hearing regarding the establishment of extension number 14 to the Henrietta Lighting District for Rivers Edge subdivision.
Second.
So any of the neighborhoods that go in with streetlights, that doesn't count the street light that's at an intersection, the traffic ones, those are covered under the town's general lighting, but if they have specific street lights, the utility charges for those lights are billed out to the neighborhood through a lighting district. So that's what that's for. Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 17-253, 2024 to call for a public hearing regarding the establishment of an extension number 25 to the Henrietta Drainage District for Rivers Edge subdivision.
Second.
So in this case, with drainage, we do a consolidated drainage across all the districts. So anytime a new neighborhood goes in, there has to be a bunch of drainage infrastructure put in. Those properties get added to the drainage district as an extension, and therefore they also get the special charges for drainage. That ultimately getting rid of all that water. Again, we basically just spread it out across the entire town. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 17-254, 2024 to accept the dedication of sanitary sewer system for the Foxfield subdivision, section 2.
Second.
So in this case, we're taking the dedication. We have a specific list punch items. We have money set aside if they don't complete those punch list items by the date set forth, which is December 21st. Then basically the town would come in and complete the repairs and draw that down. So that's part of this agreement. And then included in that is a number of sanitary sewer easements that those will all be recorded at the county clerk's office. So any questions, comments?
Yeah, Steve, can the punch list be completed with the amount that's left in it amount that's left over?
It can.
Okay.
In fact, the punch list is almost already all completed since they first put this in. There's only a few items left, but
Thank you.
yeah, we went through and calculated what it would cost for us to repair those or should do those. All right. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 17-255/2024 to accept dedication of the sanitary sewer system for the Fairways at Riverton subdivision section 1.
Second. So same thing. As we take dedication of the sanitary system, there are some punch list items. They went through, reviewed how much is left on the punch list items, set aside that amount of money. We give them the same deadline to get it completed. If they don't get it completed, we'll go in and fix it. We've kind of learned from past practices that in some cases, if you don't put a deadline, these things linger far too long, and that's not good for the residents. The other thing you'll notice is we've been pushing dedication of the sanitary systems sooner. And part of that is just because if a problem develops and we don't own it, we don't get notifications, we don't get, the developer doesn't have somebody on 24/7, 365 call like we do to resolve these issues. So that's not for something like this, where not only is it an inconvenience, it's a potential health risk. If I've got sewers backing up, we think it's important that as soon as possible, they become sanitary sewers. In fact, on the next project, we're basically doing it before they hook up the first house. So
Great.
right now, the only thing that's hooked up to that sanitary sewer is their model home that they're showing. But we've made it clear that we want this done and ready for dedication prior to them getting their first C of O for a house. So,
That really does protect the residents. It's a good idea.
yep. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 17-256, 2024 to declare items surplus materials from Henrietta Dog Control, Town Court, and Public Library.
Seconded.
Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 17-257, 2024. Whereas McQuaid Jesuit High School, located at 1800 South Clinton Avenue, Rochester, New York, has donated $525 to the Town of Henrietta Recreation Department in order to sponsor the licensing fees for the movie in the park Kung Fu Panda 4 on August 23rd, 2024. And whereas a check in the amount of $525 was received by the Director of Finance, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks McQuaid Jesuit High School for their generosity.
Second.
We'll also note they help out with the event, which, in case you didn't notice the date, is coming up this Friday. There's kid games, bouncy houses, other inflatable stuff like that. There are snacks and ice cream available. Again, other children's entertainment. So it should be a fun event for the family. Bring your youngsters, watch Kung Fu Panda 4.
Thank you very much to McQuaid.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have Resolution 258, 2024 to authorize placement of delinquent sewer bills on the 2025 combined town and county tax rolls.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call a roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz, fellow board members, I have Resolution 17-259, 2024. Whereas Donna M. French and Adrian Pettinelli have donated $100 to the Henrietta Public Library in memory of Marsha Tryon, and whereas checks in the amount of $100 were received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges their donations and thank Donna M. French and Adrian Pettinelli for their generosity.
Second.
I'll just note that the checks were totaled $100
Mm-hmm.
between the two of them. And Marcia was a member of the library board that just passed, correct?
God bless.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 17-260/2024 to hire personnel and make the attached changes.
Second. Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have our final resolution, number 17-261, 2024, to adopt local law number 5 of 2024 to amend the zoning code of the town of Henrietta to further encourage the revitalization of vacant, dormant, and or dilapidated commercial properties and to expand the development of affordable housing for persons of low or moderate income.
Seconded.
Any further discussion beyond what we had during the public hearing?
No, sir.
Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Do we have any committee or miscellaneous reports from the board?
I just got a couple quick things. I just, not reports, but, senior housing over at Market View Heights. I had or Market View, Marketplace, excuse me. Had a phone call from a new resident over there. Very, very extremely happy.
Great.
So just so you know, it's doing what we want, making, affordable housing. Had a question on that. What we talked about 3 weeks ago was Comida in the hotel project, and the lease back thing. Did we hear anything back from Comida?
Yeah, they said that that's standard language in there, but because it doesn't kick in because there is no pilot, so there is no lease back.
Okay.
I did double check with Comida. Sorry, I forgot to email that out, but
That's no problem. And then, the, Raise, the, cannabis store. Do they have an event going on? Because I had a phone call, then I went by there today and they have, well, 2 porta potties on a trailer and another porta potty that's a handicapped one. And then 2 large container, those large container.
which one are we talking about?
Is it Rise right there at?
Oh, Rise.
Yeah, Rise,
Yeah.
right at. Yeah.
Kevin, do you know that answer? Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I'm here. They have an application here for another renovation. I have not had an opportunity to look at it yet.
But they don't have anything for a special event coming up?
I don't believe so. The 560.
No, it's possible if they are renovating their restrooms That might
Right.
explain.
That may, if you went by there and saw it, you would think that they were,
Oh, I get
okay,
it.
you were gonna think they had some kind of vent going.
Yeah. I don't know that.
Okay.
We'll look into it.
But it's probably just what Kevin said.
Yeah.
Probably just, and you're probably.
They've
correct
been
that
very
the
good
restrooms-
as far as
Yeah.
submitting all their permits, so.
I was just curious
Yep.
because last year they had the grand opening.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Get a few more former Bills players and stuff.
Yeah.
You have no applications here at the moment, other than the new renovation to the restrooms.
That's, okay.
Okay. so
That's
what
probably it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Do you have anything, Joe?
No.
I don't have anything either.
Do we have additional discussion items or comments from the public? Anyone?
I do, I
You-
do have a hand raised in the virtual audience as well.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Kevin Yost.
Hello, Kevin Yost, 1474 Middle Road, although I'm in Southeast Ohio and actually in Cy Young's hometown and some other some college football coach hometown displayed on the wall of the McDonald's next door. And I know one board member was drafted by an MLB team, but the reason I'm speaking tonight is last December at a blast at the menorah lighting event in front of the recreation center for Hanukkah. I'm not Jewish, I'm Catholic, but December is a time when pretty much when Christians under Christmas and Jews under Hanukkah and Black Americans Kwanzaa celebrate togetherness, inclusion. And this year, this December, the 8 nights of Hanukkah run concurrently with the first 8 nights of Christmas and the 7 days and nights of Kwanzaa, from the day after Christmas proper in the Western tradition till New Year's Day. And so therefore I'd like to suggest that on one of the nights of the week following Christmas, that you have the menorah lighting and then maybe on the same night or maybe a separate night of that week, have a Kwanzaa Kinara candelabra lighting. And I know that the Christian Missionary Friends Baptist Church on Beckwith Road celebrates Kwanzaa. Maybe you want to reach out to them.
All right. I do know, because I just put it in for the town newsletter, that the Holiday Lights and Magic is celebrating the multiple cultures and their celebration. So that is in there, but we'll take a look at what we don't currently have. I'll have to see how the Kwanzaa candles differ, essentially how we would make something that looks different or differentiates them from a menorah.
Well, I know I make some crafts with them. Kwanzaa Kinaras candelabras. It's basically a tiered dark brown or black is like a menorah, only and it's called a candelabra or kinara. And the middle one is black, and then I think the ones to the left are 3 to the left are red, and 3 to the right are green, and they're lighted each. One is lit each night of Kwanzaa, and each one is a different African term, some African language term for different. I don't know. You have to ask Christian Missionary Baptist Church. And as for the Christmas tree lighting before Christmas proper in Western tradition, preferably again not have it the same night as Rush, maybe not preferably not the same as the festivities in Honey Falls and Pittsburgh, but I do realize you can't please everybody.
Yeah, the problem you have at that time of year, there are so many conflicting things. You pretty much have to, you're going to have some conflicts. There's just no way around it, unfortunately.
Or at least try not to have the same night as Rush.
Well, either that or Rush will have to start taking a look at, because Henrietta's so popular that they'll have to pick a different night. Okay.
Thank you.
It's already set, so it's a bit late to change that, but
All right.
maybe we'll reach out to Rush next year to say, hey, this is when we're thinking.
I don't know when they plan it this year. I'm not on their historical size board records anymore. I got term limited out. But I do know the last couple of years it's been good that the two towns have not had their Christmas tree lighting on the same night. I know it wasn't that way in the past a few years past, but
Okay, noted. Thank you.
thank you.
I assume this is not subject to something.
No, it's not. And I'm going to tell you right now, this will probably be the briefest oratory that you're ever going to get from me on the planet. We have a meeting that is scheduled between yourself, Mr. Mistrella, Ms. Ruist, and myself that was rescheduled for the 25th of September.
Just a clarification, you scheduled it with me. It's
Oh,
up to
okay,
me.
well, I
whether Mr.
scheduled
Mistrella-
with your secretary. just
Right,
to
it's
be
up to
clear.
me whether Mr. Mistrella attends that meeting or not.
Well, I was told he was, but if he's not, then that stands to be corrected, because that's not what, I mean, remember, I didn't talk to you directly, so, but neither here nor there. I have stated very clearly that, and I'm not going to get into a back and forth thing with you about this. This is just my view, okay? Because I'm an individual and I have a right to perceive certain things the way they're perceived. I don't feel comfortable, neither does Marie. You want to just say something very briefly about how comfortable you are with doing that sort of thing? So what I have done is, Captain Fay was here, unbeknownst to the rest of you. There had been discussions that have gone back and forth between myself and Captain Fay regarding a couple of things regarding this meeting. With regards to this meeting, what I had asked for, which I can request, he doesn't have to grant it, but I asked to have a sheriff's deputy present at that meeting. Because of some of the things that have gone on, we just don't feel that it's appropriate at this point to meet independently. Captain Fay, for whatever reasons he has, I'm not going to get into that here, refuses to give me a deputy. So the only other option that I have to have somebody there outside of myself, Ms. Ruist, and yourself, especially Mr. Mistrella isn't going to be there, is to go to the Center for Disability Rights, which is downtown, and get an advocate, if they can get one, and have that person attend. So the only question that I would have, in the event that I can even do that, won't know until I talk to them. Do you have an issue with that, with an advocate being present?
I told you previously, you're welcome to invite whomever you wish to
Okay,
have.
well, I just want to make sure, I'm double checking. I want to clarify to make sure that, I have to, I want to make sure that that's okay with you or whoever else it's going to be, would be there. Now, in the event that I cannot get an advocate because they won't supply one, then I'm afraid that we cannot meet with you separately. It's not going to go. So that takes care of that issue. The second thing is, which you'll probably be happy about, I unfortunately stand to be corrected on one point that you made a while back. When I was down at the county office building last week, I went up to the Department of Finance, which you should be somewhat familiar with, I believe it's on the second floor. And because I had the time I finally got a break from everything that has gone on over the last 4 months. I have been eating, sleeping, and drinking everything right up until now, and I'm only now in the last couple of weeks had time. If I had had time before, I would have done this sooner. I simply did not have the time because of what I was being bogged down with. So when I was there submitting a county floor request for certain things, I went up to the second floor, went up to the Department of Finance at the county level, and I had questions. And so those questions had led to them printing out a combined 2024 Henrietta and county tax bill. Now, with regards to that, since I now had the time to actually ask questions from somebody who could explain it so that I know what I'm looking at and what I'm applying, because a lot of times when you look at something, it might not be all that clear unless you have somebody explain, okay, this is what they mean, this is what they mean, that's what they mean. Well, I stand to be corrected on one point. even though, and I had to ask about this because even the bank could not give me clarification. At one point, you had stated in a presentation you did, I believe it was on before the meeting on, I was being on May 8th, or before that. It was a meeting before that the town only collects, right, a very small amount of taxes, correct? However, given that, basically, I then basically looked into this matter because I finally had the time to do it. So with what was explained is that the town, in fact, only does, in fact, and this is a fact, collect $98 for this year in taxes. That's what the town's portion gets. And I don't know why Mr. Stafford keeps making gestures, looking at Mr. Barley. You know, all you got to do is just sit there and just not do anything. Anyhow, $98 is what the town gets. Now, what I did was then I asked, I said, okay, so the town gets $98. So then I asked, well, why is the bank then releasing, which is the documents that I gave you, because this was not explained. How is it that the bank is releasing disbursements that they've shown the total over 2,000 and whatever it was? I don't have the number in front of me. And then it was explained. So apparently this is what happens. And you were right about this part of it, but you didn't explain exactly what actually goes on. And what goes on is that there's a tax warrant that is issued by the county to the town, to the tax receiver. That would be Ms. Weisner. And I had a discussion with her to verify that she gets this tax warrant, which gives her a breakdown of what amounts that she is to disperse everywhere. And that the town can only keep what the amount is that they're allowed on that bill. They cannot go over that amount. And then, so then I asked, well, then I asked the person that was there at the county level there when I was inquiring about this, well, then why is it that the bank is basically saying that they're collecting all this and there's no explanation as to where it's going, and they're not giving me one? That's the bank, that is. So it was explained that what happens is that total amount is dispersed to the tax receiver. That's Ms. Weisner. She is the tax receiver. Then what she does is she takes from that whole chunk that's dispersed from the escrow account, she then takes the amounts that are listed on that tax warrant and disperses them accordingly. And the town gets 98. What is the problem, Mr. Stafford?
Why are you explaining to stuff we understand?
Well, I'm simply explaining to you that I didn't understand, so I'm clarifying.
Okay.
Okay, you understand?
Well,
That this is what
you're
was,
saying it like we don't understand this. We do understand this. We know this. This is.
but I didn't
why
know
she
that, and I'm
receives
saying
her
to you
taxes.
that I stand to be corrected
Okay.
about that issue. But
Acknowledge.
what I wanted to say is that if you had explained it this way, it would have made a lot more sense.
I did
And it would have
explain it
saved
that
an
way.
awful lot of time.
Whatever.
I'm just simply pointing out, the
Okay,
process was not explained.
you're welcome to that belief.
And I can just say, I understood this about 40 years
All right,
ago.
but I don't-
I'm understood. Will you let me?
But I don't
Will you let me
understand.
finish now?
Go ahead.
I understood this process about 40 years ago when I bought my first home, that there's there's the escrow and there's how the money's split up. So for a guy who comes in that acts like he's an expert on everything.
I'm not,
And
no,
now
wait a
you're
minute,
coming
don't misquote.
around
I
and
never
saying,
said I
"No,
was an expert
I
on
didn't
anything. I
understand that."
never said that.
Certified mathematician, I'm an engineer.
But a certain,
Right.
but
I
that
did
has
that-
nothing
I
to
did
do
that
with
at
an
20 years old
explanation
when I
about
bought
how
my
the
first
inner
house.
workings of
You
taxes
know
go.
law,
But that
you
has
tell our
nothing to do.
lawyers, you know law, you tell the folks that,
Go again. So now you're
you-
gonna
you-
start putting words in my mouth.
you tell the people at the Council of Open Government that they're wrong in their interpretations of the law. You do.
Not interpreting, they're an
Well, Mr.
advisory
Supervisor,
committee
I
that
make a
works in an
motion we-
advisory capacity. Understand that, and that's a separate issue. But
Okay,
regardless, my point is, it wasn't explained. It
Whatever.
was explained now.
fine. It wasn't
clarified.
explained for you that you didn't understand the explanations.
I did not understand the explanation you
That's
gave. It
fine.
needed something that was a lot more detailed. And just because you bought a house 40 years ago, Mr. Stafford, and you understood it, doesn't mean everybody
Okay.
understands.
Well, but
Anything
you're
else?
an expert on it. Okay.
Anything else?
I never said that.
Okay, anything else?
Right.
Marie, would we be able to get you on the microphone?
Sorry about that.
Sorry, thank you, Marie.
Okay.
That's
Great.
great. I can hear you. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Mine's gonna be very, 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 very short. It's gonna be the shortest you're ever gonna hear from me.
Okay,
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to speak, obviously. I'm extremely tired from listening to all the other stuff that was going on tonight. But you look forward to me next time. So probably another month?
It's in your agenda.
I did give you all the agenda. Ms. Weisner probably sent you the email last month regarding it. It's the same thing. So I'm gonna just, again, refurbish it again, and I'll speak next month, hopefully, maybe, possibly.
Thank you.
Next month for her.
You don't, okay, whatever. I don't want to get into it.
He knows what I'm saying.
That's, whatever. This, I
make a
don't even want to
motion
get
to
into
adjourn to
it. Okay,
executive
so
session.
no, we are going to adjourn to executive session for matters regarding the employment of a particular person, and then we will adjourn straight from there without returning to open session. So, correct. So I make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
I think Rob beat you out.
Yeah, I think you did.
Hearing no objections, meeting adjourned to executive session. Have a good night.